So, hello. Oh, I just had an error occurred in my please try again later, it says over there. But hopefully you can see me because I'm supposedly live. I just can't see myself in a window, and I don't want to restart the window because that's the window I'm streaming to. So do let me know in the chat if you can see this and if I'm not just talking to myself. Good afternoon, and yes, I am going to work on a Friday, although work is going to be strong. First of all, I apologise for the screaming children in the background. Again, it's the school, and so it's the school opposite. It's their lunchtime, so there's a lot of big kids outside making a lot of noise, which is great. And this is day 5 of my streaming, and I'm going to try and click the button again and see if I can't get this, because I'm really worried that I'm not actually live. One of those funny things. Okay, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to reload the web page that says that I'm live, and we can, fingers crossed. Connect streaming service, it says, to start preview. And I am working. Yes. Oh, good. And it says I've been going for an hour or so. All right, we're good. We're live. Everything is groovy. Yeah, so this week has been great. I've really enjoyed it. It's been very slow progress, as anyone who's been following me this far has probably noticed. And that's kind of typical of this. And the intention of this time off, these 5 days that I've had, was for me to try and get some of the things that just take a long of grinding away done. My original intention was to move a whole bunch of stuff out of my personal Amazon account and into a shared Compiler Explorer account so that I could easier share the administration load. But I got distracted on day 1, and then we've been following the rabbit hole ever since. So the story so far is that our deployment and build time and our speed of starting up new instances has increased. Speed has increased, yes. So it's much quicker now to deploy and start up new versions of the code, which is great because now I can do quick updates on the train on my way to work during my normal hours. Then we've discovered a couple of interesting things along the way. One is a packaging problem where very occasionally a file that we try to upload to our CDN gets changed, and our scripts kind of go, wait a second, that file there should be immutable. We should, there's a hash that's in the file name of that file, and the contents of that file should match the hash of that file. We've had some issues with that. That hasn't happened recently, so I'm kind of crossing my fingers that it's magically gone away, which of course it hasn't. The other thing is that we use caching in Compiler Explorer quite extensively for a number of things. One of the things that we use caching for is to determine the -- help, the -- help target, and a bunch of other things that we run on every single compiler. Now, Compiler Explorer has around about 1,000 or 1,200 compilers, so our startup time is somewhat proportional to how quickly we can run and make sure all those compilers are okay. We have a mode where we capture the results of what those compilers do, and when we do a full deployment, that's exactly what we do. But even that requires us to run all the compilers, and at one stage that was taking 20 minutes. If you can imagine running 1,200 compilers one after another for a number of command line options that we run just to get their version information, we get their help, things like that, to parse that out, that takes a while. And of course it doesn't change very often, but when it does, we need to be able to capture it. And when our code that parses that changes, we also need to be able to capture that too. So we use caches for that. We also use caches for your own compilation. If you hit Compiler Explorer and you go and get this default square, very, very, very often this is coming out of the cache. And down here at the bottom somewhere, let me zoom in so that you can see this. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen yet. Haha. Let me go to sharing my screen, and now you can actually see what I'm talking about. Although I am trying to be more personal and talk to the camera a little bit more. So yeah, here very often, of course, you've done this for GCC 11.3, and there's no need for us to run the compiler. It's going to do the same thing every single time, so that is also cached, and that lives in an S3 bucket at the so that it's shared amongst all of the instances. We have multiple instances running. In fact, right now we have, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4. C5.large machines are running in Amazon right now, and those are serving the request that you will get if you hit us. But obviously we want to, where possible, not have to do compilations over and over again. So if someone tweets out a cool link, so if Shafiq puts something scary on Twitter and we're all going, oh my golly, what on earth is this? We only need to do that compilation once. But the problem we have had is that sometimes we just mysteriously miss the cache. So for those compiler options that we do at the beginning, we should essentially never miss that cache, because only when we add a new compiler does anything change, or if we change an existing compiler, should we have to rerun anything. So that should essentially be never. And last night we had an issue where I was deploying, and that happened. A whole bunch of things missed. And so we've got a mystery. And I've been looking at the code since, and I can't see how it could possibly miss. And we added a little bit more instrumentation. And the one and only reason that it might be missing, that I can think of, is that to look up in the cache, what we do is we get a hash of a little object. And that object itself is somewhere in here. Let me find the actual code rather than the PR that I've got there. So somewhere I should have Compiler Explorer. Yes, here. It's in base compiler.js, space compiler.js. Get compiler cache key up here. So that the key that we look up in the cache is the modification time of the compiler executable. So that allows me to, if I actually have to like copy over a compiler and say, no, we actually change it, then the modification time there gets folded into the key. The compiler itself, which is literally the path to the compiler, the arguments that we're running the compiler with, so this is like --help or --target or --version, and then some options. Those options include things like what path we're going to have and a few other bits and pieces. That was my original thought, is like, I bet you our path is changing. So I logged that out, and if I go back to the wrong one over here, so here, a note here, if you are watching this live stream and this output you're looking at here is the live output of our logs for our staging environment, which is not currently up, but later on I will be bringing that up. And just be aware that your part of your IP address might be visible if you visit the staging site, which is at godbolt.org/staging. You probably won't visit it, but I just want to say that now. So looking here, you can see the logs, cache, there's the M time, there's all of the things that we're doing, timeouts, maximum error, environment, path has just a regular looking path, the home directory is home CE, there's a library path, and then I've now printed out the hash and I said it's a hit. So what we were seeing before is a miss. So if I search for cache M time miss, what we were seeing last night was all of this stuff going on. So for example, this DJPP DOS thingamajig here, we had a miss in the cache. That should not have changed. That really should not have changed. And the logic behind this, and this is before, unfortunately, I was logging the actual hash itself. Just this is just logging the key, which, you know, always best laid plan. So let's go and find something we think should definitely be in the cache. So GCC 10.1.0 bin G++. Right, so this line here should be in our cache before. So what I want to do is search for cache M time to pick up this line here, and then we're going to pick out there's this one here, that should thing, not miss. I'm just going to redo what I was doing last night after the stream finished. And what we should see is that there was some hits beforehand. So here's the hit for G++10, syntax only, target help, MASM equals Intel. And can we find that same thing with the miss? So hit. Where's the miss that we had? There's the miss. I'm trying to find one where it hit and then one where it missed later on. And I'm going to just double check that there is no obvious difference between the two lines. Because previously I did this last night and I dumped both logs into text file, and then I diffed them and they were identical, which means that we were looking up the same key and it means it had gone away. So I don't understand how that could possibly have happened, but it did. So this is our GCC 10.1.0 bin G++. Let's do help equals optimizers as well and try and find a real obvious, like winnowing it down to just the very things, the minimal things. This is paper trail, by the way, which is amazing. So hit, miss, hit. How do we get two misses? And if we look and I'm going to literally take out this one. This is a miss here. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, and then I'm going to cat to temp miss splat, and then the one immediately before it was a hit, so I'm going to take that, temp hit splat diff. Whoops. So we've got temp miss, temp hit, and they look pretty identical to me, but luckily we have a computer. Temp hit, temp miss. They were identical. So the keys were identical. In 2 runs we had a hit and a miss and a miss and a hit again. And now the only other explanation is that the cache went away, but the cache lives over here on S3. I can go to S3. S3. Scalable storage in the cloud. Thank you very much. Drum roll. Thank you. I'm glad that it inspires folks to work on their side projects. Yeah. So here is all of the various things, and this is one of the reasons why I want to separate Compiler Explorer from my personal S3, because there's a whole bunch of things in here that, of course, are nothing to do with Compiler Explorer, including my BBC Micro emulator and any number of other random other things that I do. So we want to go to storage.godbolt.org, compiler info cache. This is the compiler info cache. Here it is in its wonderful glory. And then we're going to go back to paper trail, and you can see that of all of these hits that we have here, this bottom one here, this bottom one has the hash now, because that's the most recent run we did. Now, under the theory that this file has always existed, it was always been the same cache, let's copy it. We should be able to look that up in the cache and see when it was created. And this should hopefully clarify whether or not the file was deleted or created like at another point in time. So let's go back over here, find objects by prefix, enter. There it is, last modified April the 25th. So this has always been there. This particular file, DC49, yada, 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 has always been, I say always, like for the last 4 days, it's been there. This was last night that we had those strange misses. So this definitely smells like something isn't right in the way that we create that hash. And so it occurred to me that taking an object and turning it into a JSON string to then MD5 sum it or SHA sum it or whatever might not be deterministic. And so I Googled it, and it isn't deterministic. So I have a branch over here, use a deterministic hash, where I use JSON stringified deterministic, which is some third-party project to make it a deterministic string. Now, I think I should just merge this, but I would love to know for sure that this is actually what happened before I merge it. I'd love, otherwise it feels a bit like fear, uncertainty, of doubt. I'm just making up stuff because I don't know anything else. Now, I've never observed the JSON string looking different. And in fact, this very output here, this string we've got here, this string where I'm printing out what I got a hit for, is using the same to JSON. So I would expect them to have keys in different orders or something like that, and it would be non-deterministic there. So that is very surprising to me. Another possibility that I looked at last night is that the cache itself, like our own logic, somehow misidentifies failures like an actual HTTP error or similar as being a cache miss. So let's have a look at that. And if we follow the rabbit hole down, a hidden timeout that we don't see. Yeah, it's possible. So I did some tests on this as well. Pantuful is in the chat giving some help here. So compiler cache get, we go in here, eventually we get to the compiler cache. The compiler cache is created cache, and the cache is S3. We make an S3 cache, and this is what we end up getting. And so finally this this cache, in theory, calls this S3 get function. And this S3 get function says await get object, and it looks for a particular path, which is path/key, and we return. If we succeed, we return the hit is true and data is the body. Otherwise, we catch an exception. So it throws an exception if the key does not exist. And the reason we do this is it's quicker to get and fail than it is to test and then get. right? If you test to see if it's there and then try and get it, then you've made 2 calls to S3, and that's 2 round trips to S3. Whereas here we might as well just say get it, and if it's there, I want it, so I might as well do that in one go. But I have to deal with the fact that if it's not there, I get an exception. So then I check very specifically for a no such key return code, which should be unambiguously, I correctly hit S3, as in I requested from S3. We looked, and sorry, your key was not there. So I can't see that this is the problem. Otherwise, we throw X. So let's go up the stack and see if anyone else is catching this and perhaps swallowing up the error. So if the S3 get fails, we capture the exception and we do a logger error while trying to read S3 cache. So cache. So let's see if that actually ever appears in our logs. And I have to be very careful not to accidentally get rid of that staging. So no matching events. We have never seen that error come out, provided that I've got my error document stuff right. This is actually working. And then eventually it does, though, hit false. But I would expect to see both Sentry, which is our system for tracking errors, email me, which I've never knowingly seen, or at least this error message coming up in our logs, and we've not seen it. So it just doesn't look like that. So I'm back to saying maybe the hash that we use is not correct. Either that, or I guess the other thing is the path. But the path is part of this object, the this.path here. This is also using very old style code here. We could perhaps not do this. We could use promises now. I think S3 get is async now, yeah. So we could actually use await and regular try catch type stuff, which would be an improvement, and maybe I'll do that in a second as well. Same with the put here. Well, actually, that is confusing. So get internal. Maybe this doesn't work the way I think it is, you know? Because this get internal, what if this returns a promise? Does this hook to that particular get, and then the thing that's calling get internal is expecting it to be async? I think that's what's happening here. So let's have a look at base cache. Base cache await this.get internal. Okay, that's a little confusing that we're mixing catch and whatever. So that is probably worth doing this. So Claire was asking what the problem is of occasional cache misses. In this instance, it's the startup time of Compiler Explorer. We've had a couple of times, in fact we had a site outage which ultimately was tracked back to us missing the cache on everything during startup. If we miss the cache on startup for everything, it takes around about 20 minutes for a node to come up. And 20 minutes is far too long, and our health checks will keep killing the machine, and so it slowly makes progress as it kind of gets a little bit further each time. But ultimately we might get to the point where all of our nodes have been killed, and then we'd have nothing left to serve traffic. And we've had that happen exactly once, which caused the whole search for another solution, which is why we have like a prepared cache. So during startup, we can actually do a compiler discovery process where we just save off the results of what all compilers are available, and then we just load that when we start up. But that was taking 20 minutes because that had no caching. And so I partly at the beginning of this week, I went and made it so that the discovery process used a cache, and that was great. It takes 20 seconds to do that discovery process now. Hooray. But then every now and then it would go wrong and it would start taking 20 minutes again. And so I really want to understand why this is going wrong, because if this is happening, who knows what other things are going wrong in our cache system. And our cache hit rate in general, if I go back over to Grafana here, our cache hit rate somewhere isn't very high. It peaks at like 5 or 6%. But obviously, it's an improvement if we can use if we can serve cache results. Yeah, thanks for the question, Claire. I realise that people come and go into the stream, so obviously it's not always clear where I am in my line of reasoning. So I'm not quite sure what this get internal does, if there is actually an exception in this S3 get function. So do I have tests for this? I think I do, but I'm not sure that it's easy to test S3 related stuff. So here my working theory is something like we are getting transient errors from S3, this exception this code is throwing an exception. It's not a no such code, so we throw the exception up, but it's somehow being swallowed or lost in the fact that this get is calling .catch, which is an old school way of dealing with promises in JavaScript, but it's sort of mixed with this async await version of code. I'm pretty sure this works the way I would think it does. That is, the catch is kind of wrapped around that class, but it would be nice to get some idea that is happening. So that's another issue. Yeah. So why don't we see if we've got some S3 tests. So we've got storage S3 tests. Hooray. And we've got all this mock nonsense here. It works when there's a collision, stores to S3, retrieves from S3, not a reason. Okay. It should handle failures. Okay. So storage S3. Is this a different thing? Storage S3 stores storage base. This is actually slightly different. Whoops. I've just... that's not the right thing. So cache S3. Let's see if we can't find some tests for that. Test. Surely I've got some level of cache test. I'm sure I do. He says. So cache / S3. There should be a cache directory with tests in it. We might have to make one. Let's have a look. Cache tests. There is cache.test. Where is cache test hiding? Oh, it's in the root. I've not been very good at keeping these in the right place. So in-memory caches, multi-caches, but this is really an S3 specific cache here. Cache S3, but this get internal, I guess. Yeah, it does rely on this s3.get returning a promise. And I would have thought something would have errored about this. Catch method returns a promise and deals with rejected cases only. It behaves the same as running the prototype, then undefined or rejected, in fact. And then, this means you have to provide an on-rejected function even if you want to call back. I see. Okay, so this does work the way that I think it should do then, which is that it only filters off the exception. If the issue here throws an exception, then it will be caught here. Otherwise, it will travel back out as being a promise still to the caller. Oh, thank you for putting that in the chat. Oh, hey Charles. If your temporary SGS AWS screens expire for the system you're running on, then do they ought to get renewed to ensure that you don't lose access? And is that no such key? That is an excellent question. So this only seems to happen at startup. Yeah, that's a really good idea. It happens so indeterminately that I'm not sure when it does, and I don't want to turn on logging overall for this. Although for this thing, I could probably turn it on and get some. So I'm going to write that down as an idea. S3 bucket login. So all of these are using. What Charles is talking about is the various authentication mechanisms that are going on behind the scenes. These are running on AWS instances. So my understanding is they have. Like credentials, they have an IAM role associated with the actual computer that they're running on. So as a result of that, they just, inverted commas, it should just work. Now, because this is right at startup, it's feasible that behind the scenes stuff hasn't gone on. Although actually, no, the whole thing revolves around it grabbing the tarball that contains the code that it's going to run off of S3 in the first place. So maybe that kind of proves that the machine already has access to S3. But yeah, bucket access login is a great idea to do, just to turn on as another representative thing. While we're here, though, I think I should do two things. One, I should write a test for this S3 cache. And second, I should turn this code from old style to new style, just so that there's no question anymore. And then you can also learn about and see what that looks like. So I am going to move these things around. I'm going to go to cache tests, on disk caches. Oh, I have got an S3 cache. Isn't that lovely? S3 tests. Be very careful. The bloke we use was sufficient to test on prod with mocks off. Yeah, this is a scary thing to do, obviously, is to not do things that actually test real things. So why don't we just make sure, let's see if running the S3 tests work. Please hold. Another thing I've noticed is that our start. Oh, it did work. Should start empty, should store and retrieve strings, whatever. Okay, so I have this kind of like basic tests thing here, which is very specifically runs like, can I put a key in, can I get it out, for all the various different types of caching backends that we have. So we have a number of things. For example, we have an in-memory cache, we have an on-disk cache, and we have this S3 base cache. And there is a PR that uses Redis as well, which is something I want to look at. That was going to be my treat for myself. If I solve this problem, I was going to look at merging in the Redis cache and then sort of see about setting that up. We may yet have time to do that. Who knows? This whole week has been me kind of dangling a carrot in front of myself and then not quite getting there. Anyway, so we've got this S3 get object, if not result, new error, no such count. Okay, so we have got a thing here in the sort of the mocking part. I'm trying to remind myself how this all fits together, where if there's not a result in the S3FS object up here, then we're going to throw a no such key. So it looks like I can do something where is anything ever putting things in there? It is, isn't it? Yeah. I could also fake it out so that I could I mean, just to start with, let's just get rid of the no such key and see what happens. See if we get the test to fail, because presumably there would be a test that says, hey, check that it works when there is no key, and it should get back, hey, a false hit. But we should see something different. It still passed, but we'd see the error while trying to read S3 cache not found. Good, and that didn't happen here. Now, obviously, I'm just doing that just to make sure my understanding is correct, rather than suggesting that that's a thing that we should do. Obviously, mutating one's tests to make sure that they're testing what we think they are is a useful temporary solution, but a more real and practicable solution should be to be able to generate errors. So what I think I'm going to do now is have some kind of way of let throw S3 error equals null, and up here I'm going to do something like if throw S3 error, this is horrible global stuff, but it's a test, I'm going to let myself go, then we're going to call back error, something like that. And you are angry because error, because yeah, throw S3 error is there. So we've got a horrible global variable that we can use to sort of puppeteer externally to make the mock throw an error down here. So then what I want to do is take one of these basic tests here and make it a special case down inside after the setup here, basic tests, and then we're going to say it should correctly handle errors. And then we're going to call factory, which is that. You can see my comedy thing to try and make sure it never actually, even if it did accidentally be not mocked, it wouldn't try and get to it. So unless Amazon actually come up with a data center in the north of England or the north of the UK, maybe Scotland somewhere, then we should be safe, even if this comes out. So we're going to get rid of the stats there. And then this is cache the key doesn't matter subsystem, and then should eventually contain hit false. That is going to be the case, but what we're going to do here is we're going to do throw S3 error equals new error. Now of course we've got horrible global mutable state here, which is just, you know, a travesty, but I also don't know quite how to do the setup for the best. Unless, yeah, this doesn't actually clear that S3FS between things, does it? That setup should probably clear it every time. It says before each do this, after each aws.restore. But I'm not quite sure where this before each runs. I'm not very au fait with this particular way of doing this stuff, so I'm going to go with this for now. So this is an error, not some S3 error. So this is definitely an error that's not found, right? Not. Does that make sense? And you are angry. Should not be an empty string. It isn't. Idea, you're a bit behind me. So this should definitely should eventually contain hit false, and then we can do other bits and pieces here, and then critically we need to do throw S3L equals null just to get rid of that as well, which is, or maybe I can actually do it in here. Let's do it here. If S3 callback throw S3 error, throw S3 error equals null. Okay, that's like, so it's a one shot. Bleh. Wonderful. Okay, Now we should be able to run this. It should pass, and we should see in the logging the error that we were expecting to see. And then we're going to need to write a test to actually make that happen. Okay, so we did get an error. Now in my day job of Python, I would use cap log to capture the logger, and then I would assert something went on there. But what we can do in this instance here is go to s3.js. We've got logger.error. Is there a way? Do I have any capturing loggers here? Logger, capture, anything like that? No, capture, logger. Darn it. I usually have some kind of thing, but it's been a long while. So let's go into Compiler Explorer, git grep capture. Capture messages. Let's do it in the test directory. That's the likely place for it to be. Okay, there's lots of things in our acceptance test there, but not actually anything here. That's pretty horrible. So to the internet, and we will Google for what will we Google for? No, I'm going to do it a different way. I am going to make it so that the S3 cache optionally takes an on error. And here we're going to say this.on error equals on error, or that, or something which takes an error and does that. Oh, and that's going to have some kind of parentheses things around. And now here we're going to do this.on error e, and oh, this is on read error, or I guess on. Yep. Okay, this is now going to be e comma op while trying to op. And now we're going to do this dot e comma read. Whoops, wrong type of quotes. People get upset. And then this is going to be this is purely going to be this dot on error e comma right. Was that what it said before? Right. Yes, it did. Excellent. Not this. This or that. Okay, so then in this particular instance here, we're going to have our own on error here. So we're going to say let equals null, and then our own on error. Oh, we're just going to have a thing that takes e comma op. And I'm running off the side of my screen here, and I'm going to hope the auto formatter is going to do the good job in a second when I get that far. And here we're going to say equals e op dot should dot equal read. Wonderful. And at the end of this stuff, we should say there should be hits, puts, gets that, and we're also going to say dot should dot be dot null, which it won't be. I want to get a failing test before I get too far down the ride here. Down the ride, down the line, some word like that. And I am out of Coke. Luckily, I thought ahead, and I've got another can here, so excuse the noise. Assertion error, expected error. Yay, some S3 error to be null, and it wasn't. So we expect L should dot equal, or should, yeah, it should equal throw. Oh no, throw S3 error will actually have been. Ugh. Let's do another one like that. They should be the same, right? Again, I'm already hating myself for this throw S3 error being a mutable global state, but I don't really know what the right answer should be here. Now, obviously, I could do the check here. Yeah, let's just check the string. I don't really care what it is. I just care that it exists. Oops, and I need to press the wrong. I pressed the wrong button. Well, thank you all for spending your Friday afternoons, whatever time, evenings for my friends in the United Kingdom and the rest of Europe. And those in America, it's afternoon. Okay, so that gives me some confidence that we are going to be handling the errors correctly. And then what I'm going to do is that refactoring that I said I was going to do. So now this is going to be async get internal and async put internal. And then we're going to do try return await this catch e splat splat. And now we've got something which looks a lot more like normal code. And now, with the exception that it's saying is not assignable to type promise never. What does that even mean? Why is nothing's ever easy, is it? I'll come back to the squiggly lines in a second. And for the meantime, I'm just going to sort of put my fingers in my ears and go la la la. Okay, so this thing is complaining that that is not assignable to promise of never. Well, what is that? Is that because it thinks S3 guess of promise of never is async? But that should be fine. It doesn't have to be async to do that. That's very odd. An IDE type mismatch options. You see, it's trying to be clever and think about what the type is, but oh, I wonder if the get internal, oh, is that? Yeah. So I have got these kind of pure virtual, if you want a better term. There's probably a better way of doing this as well. My knowledge of JavaScript is terrible at best. So I wonder if that's confusing it, but I don't think so. I don't know how to do type hinting. If this is Python, I'd know how to do the type hint. It'd be like some kind of crazy cast, but I think I can do as if it was TypeScript. We'll, I'll tell you what, first of all, we'll see if the test gives us a clue. S3 test should correctly handle errors, which it does. So that didn't break. Let's run all of the tests now, not just the S3 test, just to make sure I haven't broken anything else. And then we have to ask ourselves the question, is there a way around this? Yeah, so Partouf is making an excellent point. Might as well make these TypeScript, but the trick with this is I have no idea how to do that. I am very, very naive about how to do. So this is complaining. Return. Oh well, that's fair enough. It's not assignable to type promise because we're just going to await it. We're not actually returning anything in this function here. So here it's done some kind of inference as to what type it is. So we'll let that run. And then you can watch me flounder trying to turn these things into TypeScript, which, you know, is an improvement, one could argue. While we're waiting, actually, what I'm going to do, well, we're not really waiting. What I'm going to do as a sort of semi-background task is I'm going to start up the latest version of the code in our staging environment in the vain hope that we start getting these actual cache misses that we were expecting before. So, excuse me. So, I'm going to do cd. So this is me. Whenever you see the green bar at the bottom of the screen here, it means I'm logged into a tmux session, which is the one we share amongst our Compiler Explorer administration team, which is me and Partouf and Ruben mostly. And CE is our own little tool. All of this stuff, by the way, is open source. So the entire infrastructure that Compiler Explorer runs on is open source. And so if you go to the Compiler Explorer GitHub page, there is Compiler Explorer, which is this code, and then there's an infra, and there's all the compilers, there's various builders, and other infrastructural stuff. So there's a tool called CE and a tool called CE_install, and they are related. And what this lets me do is do like starting and stopping of the services and updating and deploying versions. So at the moment, we're in our staging, we're on build 2688, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to build 2704. So builds set current GH 2704. Not build. I'm going to deploy that version. And what deploying really means, other than it saying, did you really want to do this? Yes, main is the right version. You want to continue? Yes, I haven't done compiler discovery, which is fine because I actually want to see if that breaks. Is it deploy some files to our content delivery network, the CDN. those are where static files that don't change are placed. So those are all of the assets that make up the web front end, the JavaScript and the images and all that good stuff. So that goes onto our CDN. So it makes sure those assets are pushed to the CDN, but then it just writes a file that tells the instances that when they start up, what tarball should they unpack and run. And so it's told them that they need to untar 2704. So let me just look, make sure, yep, our staging environment is currently down. So I'm going to start it up. Off it goes. And so while we wait, I'm going to do a poor man's, watch, waiting for those things to come up. And we'll see at the end of that whether or not they had this cache miss issue, in which case we might just determine right now that it is in fact some subtlety in the way that to JSON or JSON.dumps or whatever the equivalent, what is it called? JSON.stringify, that's what the JavaScript equivalent is in fact non-deterministic, which would be wonderful. I don't think it's that though. I'll be honest with you. But I still don't have a clue. So yeah, so Charles's thoughts are welcomed about logging the bucket, because then we can see. Maybe I should turn that on. I should learn how to do that. Okay, while that's going, off it goes. So now we have an instance that's running. It's in initial status. The service is running. Somewhere in here I have my paper trail, and in a minute we'll start seeing something happening for April 29th, and we'll leave that over there in fact while we wait, and we can I was thinking that it was I could fit both side by side, and I can't because my IDE is taking up the entire screen. So Partouf makes the excellent point of maybe we should just move these to being TypeScript, and I think I will do that. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a temporary local commit of this. So I'm going to make a branch for this, which is mg. I'm just going to freshen cache. It's the best thing I can think of, and although it's not freshening the cache, I mean the code of the cache, like bringing it up to date is what I mean here. So this is use async for S3 cache, add tests for failure case. Let it go and do its magical thing. My dog in the background is having a very loud sigh. So he's doing a bit better. He was at the vet's yesterday for his annual wellness check. And so he had all of the blood draws and various injections. So he was feeling very sorry for himself last night. I know you can't really see him. But, hey Monty, you okay over there? I've got to feed you, haven't I? That's a very good point. You know what's more important than this stream right now is feeding my dog. He hasn't had his lunch. So I will, you get, this is live dog healthcare. Not really healthcare, it's a minimum thing that a dog owner should do is feed their animal, right? So I'm going to go and feed him. So, hey Monty, should we get your food? Should we get your food? Yeah? He knows that word. Okay, we'll be back. I'll be back very shortly. You can hear me in the background, I'm sure. Good boy, Monty. Give you some fresh water. And then, what's this? What are you going to do? Sit. 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 Good boy. Touch. Good boy. Sit. Lie down. Go. Alright, that's the quickest feeding of a hound ever. Okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to add them. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that if we didn't do this on error type thing, do a sort of quick mutation test. Oh. So I had a moment of worrying that maybe it wouldn't actually, my test was not testing the thing I thought it was. Good. Okay. Yes. So, right. It does in fact do what we thought. I mean, I was pretty sure. Okay, we're going to sit through all this again. And see how it formatted my code. Did it do a good job? Seems not to have done anything too untoward. We've been having some problems recently. We're in the process of moving away from one way of formatting code to another, and that's great. But we're trying to do it gradually, and occasionally that means that we get, as you check things in, the code format changes, and then we've got unfortunate extra changes. But that's not what's happened here. So naively, I'm hoping that I can just rename all these files to .ts and like follow the IDE. But we'll see. I'm still waiting for the commit to happen, so I shouldn't be changing things. Okay, wonderful. We have a new branch. Nothing is gone. Everything is groovy. So, can I do S3 on its own? Not S3. Cache. S3.js cached, or do I need to do the main thing? Let's find out. Let's find out. So, click my little button over here and go, hey, rename you to .ts. And I seem to have put it in overwrite mode. Brilliant. Now it's TypeScript. Run the tests. Haha! Errors are appearing already. Excellent. Is there some online tool to convert from? So my understanding was, and maybe this is where I've read too much of the document, not enough of the documentation, or too much of the glossy brochure stuff, is that all JavaScript is valid TypeScript. It's just not type annotated correctly. But clearly not. So let's try and learn Idiot's Guide to TypeScript here. This.bucket on error, all these things. Alright, so what is TypeScript meant to look like here? It does not exist on type S3 cache. Presumably I have to do stuff like bucket is what? S3 bucket. Yes, it is. Path is a string. Oh, this is nice. Region is also a string. Alright, you're angry because missing semicolon. Yes! See, I've been doing too much Python recently. On error. Aha! Now, what is the type of on error? Oh, no, S3 bucket is not. So bucket is a string. Do we even need the bucket anymore? Doesn't look like it. So bucket is not an S3 bucket. It's S3 is an S3 bucket. This.bucket. It's not even used anywhere. It's used to give to the base class, so that can go away. We don't need it anymore. Hooray! We're actually doing some programming. This.onError. Create field on error. Yes. Ah, there we are. Oh, private. Oh, look at these. Yes, like Claire says, use the IDE, Luke. Privatke. Okay, field can be read-only. Oh, it's even better. Oh, all of this is giving me the nice feelings that I get. Why is region variable? Because surely this can be read-only too. I don't know about the S3 bucket. Presuming that this also can be read-only, because I think the idea of read-only means that you don't reassign to it. It doesn't. It's not const like C++ const is. And part two. This is programming by. So this takes an error and a string to void or something. Yeah, that looks great. All right, so now the anger here is not assignable. Type key any to promise of hit boolean data modified. I'm going to have to start annotating these things, which is exactly what we want to do, right? Options does not exist on type empty. Hooray! Now we're in trouble. This is where we're going to see Godbolt doesn't understand anything about programming. Which I think you all suspected. So, it looks like we're going to have to do a bit more of a wholesale thing, or else Add override modifier. Yes, that's good. I like that. I like the fact that these are overriding. That's a nice thing. Clearly does not exist on type empty. We need to somehow tell it this is kind of like an any type, I think. There is a way of doing that. Right? Unless, is there create property created by? Undefined. Well, that's kind of the same, I think. But if that is the same, then we could actually inline that. So this is like creator, query, creator, or else undefined, right? Which I think must clearly be the same thing, because I think, let's see, put internal. Does anyone ever call it with anything? It's sometimes undefined, this dot put internal, creator. I think we can just say created by creator here, and it will do the thing that we need it to do. And the anger here is because of the missing trailing comma. Reduce redundancy. Oh, that's pretty joyous. So now we're just down to what is essentially, I think, the same error we're seeing in JavaScript, which is that the IDE we couldn't intuit what the correct return value is for this. And indeed, neither can this. So why don't we go and look at what would it look like to make S3 bucket here, an S3 handler, wherever this is. Where is this? S3 handler.js. What would this look like to be TypeScript? And this is where we're going to kind of follow the rabbit hole down. So, create field instance of type aws.s3. Well, that's unfortunate because I think that is going to be a tricky thing. Private, and this can be read-only as well. Everything can be read-only. I love the read-only. Bucket string, private read-only region string. You have to have the type to be in the base thing. Right, that may be true. Yes, yeah, all right, I'll have to go and look at that. But while we're here, we might as well try and give this a go. So, if catch X, and so what is X really when it is back? This is now where we're in the world of what all magical things AWS error, I think, is what we are at the whim of here. Whoops, come on. So is it that we can do? AWS error? Something like that. That's not right. Catch clause variable type. It must be any or unknown if specified. Well, that sounds like magic that needs to be done here. So if is instance, or how do we do this? If type X that, there's got to be a way of doing this. Floundering on here. Flip if else. No. So there's no IDE help here. Suppress with TS ignore. Well, that's tempting, but we should solve this problem because it's going to come up again and again. And presumably this means we can also annotate these things while I'm here, right? String, path, string, bucket, string, region, string. And if I was being even nicer, we could presumably I could do that too. Love it. All these things make me feel like I'm writing in a decent language again. Type of, ha 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 ha. If type of X is equal to AWS error. See, that's not what I was expecting here. So to the internet. Oh, wait a second. This all started up as well. And so what we're going to look for is cache miss. We got some misses, everybody. Okay, so now we've got like 3 things going on at once again, which has been kind of what's happened during this stream. But we said we missed this hash here, and this was at, let's just make sure, April 29th, that is today, and it was at 17:13:36, which is just a few minutes ago, 12 minutes ago. 12 minutes ago? Gosh, yes, time flies when you're having fun, right? And so now we're going to go to storage and we're going to put that very thing in, and it was last modified April 25th. So look, how are we missing that? How is it possible that that was not there? Now, of course, exactly as Charles said, I should have put on some kind of access analysis or an access logging. So rather belatedly, we're going to try and work out how to do that. Darn it. That is so weird though, right? Compiler info cache. Back. Permissions metrics, maybe? Management? Life cycles, inventory, properties? Well, somewhere in here. Server access logging. Log request for access to your bucket. Edit. Enable. Well, rather sadly, turning this one's going to log on everything, all the cache accesses ever, because I haven't got it in a separate bucket from everything else. I was hoping we could put filtering on here. So we're going to go back. Where can I put this? Compiler Explorer logs is where we're going to put this. Cache debug, something like that. What else have we got in storage? All this nonsense. Good golly. Well, server access logging. Edit. I feel like I should probably turn that on after trying to restart this thing. So that's running. Let's do C environment stop. I'm going to restart it and see if it happens again, which I really don't think it is going to because it's so intermittent. What could it be? It's really confusing. So we wanted S3 compiler explorer logs, I think it was. I've already forgotten because my brain is mush after talking to myself for 5 days straight. Compiler explorer logs, yes, and then we're going to say storage logs temp. Hopefully, oh, there's a browse S3 button. Oh well, never mind. Okay. So pretty soon we should start seeing things appearing in there if I've done that right, because the access, the thing is used all the time. The thing, the server, the cache. That storage bucket is used all the time by everything. So let me reload this again. And we still don't have anything there, which is sort of worrying, but who knows how often it writes to the thing. So we'll come back to that. We'll restart staging and see if we can't get it to happen again, which seems a little bit hopeful. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to go back to the code for a little bit, right? So we'll come back to the code. If type of x equals something, now we were just determining that there is a possibility that it takes an S3, an AWS error, but we don't know where that AWS error comes from. And if I try and get the IDE to kind of do some magical, oh well, I guess I should put something which is valid programming language. And that almost certainly needs to be 3 equals is or some string or whatever. If e instance of, thank you. I would. Come on, there must be some way. AWS error. AWS.error. All right, how is this done in the real world? To the Googles. So AWS SDK TypeScript error handling in the modular for JavaScript v3 blah 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 catch e if e.name. Search for TypeScript. TypeScript code can only cast the call expression to provide a service exception. Blah 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 blah. Yes. If e instance of foo service exception. Again with the foo. Stop it. There are better names. So it is definitely importing this from AWS SDK, it says up here, and we've got AWS, but we're not really sure what kind of S3 error or otherwise error there may be. Maybe the folder has... So, yeah, S3 doesn't have folders or anything like that. It doesn't care about... as far as S3 is concerned, everything's just a long string. A folder is just an empty directory with that. So let me refresh this page. It may come up. I bet you it's there now. Oh, no, I don't. All right. Yeah. Let's go back to server access and just see... Include automatically updates your bucket policy to include access to the S3 log delivery group. Browse S3 compiler explorer logs, and then we're going to say what did I say that was? Let's just try this again. Storage logs temp. It's letting me. Oh. Yeah, maybe you're right, but I'm very confused if that's the case, because I've never had to create a directory before. It isn't really a thing. And you'd think that if you needed it to be somewhere that existed, you would just click a button. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to come back to that again a bit later on. Bucket versioning enabled, where it shouldn't be. I don't know why it is. Anyway, all right, too many things going on at once. Server access logging enabled. Learn more. Maybe we should try the manual. Oh my lord. As optional, assign a prefix. If you prefix logs slash, do we need to do that? Do we need a trailing slash? Is that the problem? Where are you? I can never find it because the edit button's about 6 miles off to the right. Okay. My guess is it's not actually updating the bucket policy, even though it says it is. Compiler Explorer logs. Reload the page. And still not there. Well, I will come back to that in a second, because I don't believe that there is... yeah, see, look, it's put in its own... There's its magical thing, bucket policy, which will get immediately cut out for the next time I do a Terraform deploy, but whatever. All right, back to the programming, the tractable world of programming. So if X is instance of the thing that we want to try and work out, which we don't really know, so why don't we do error handling in modular blah invalid exception. I wonder if is there another... Oh, it says don't do that. Fine. But we import the whole thing as AWS, so you'd think this would be like an S3 something something exception. Are we missing some kind of type things? It seems AWS error is some weird thing. Okay, thank you, Partu, for like being ahead. AWS error not backed by actual prototype. Is not extended, thrown by error extractor. Okay, typed. Checking for a key's existence as a mean of type doesn't... yep. Agree with your original thing. Maybe my comment somewhere in here is the code. Hopefully is some magic that's going to tell me what to do. Yes. In my code I do this. That's great. Private symbol key. So I think that means we're stuck. Right? I think that means we can't do that thing there. We're going to have to come up with some other magic than the x.code. I don't know how you do that. I mean, we can definitely do that, which is dreadful because now something else is going to... Do not do that because it breaks things. Well, yes. Yes. Have you got better suggestions? So, I guess... if I access it like that, type unknown, can we do like any here? Or is it any lowercase? Yes. What if we do x.code in there? Will it let us do that now? Okay, that's... I'm happy enough with that. Happy enough. Okay, so we're now going to pop back to our S3, and now the get internal needs to go to base cache, which means if we change base cache, we're going to have to change every other cache in the cache directory, which is a half dozen of them. And I'm kind of fine with that because now I'm learning TypeScript. Yes, Partouf, you are ahead of me. I'm just slow in reading the stream, so thank you for your patience, my friend. You are always one step ahead. Okay, base.ts. Let's do this thing. Amazing. This is actually, for the first time this whole stream, I feel very happy about this. Is this going to be, I might have to be protected. We'll come back to that. Because I'm actually doing programming rather than mining around for scrabbling in the dirt kind of thing. I don't know what, oh, string. I don't know what details is here. What is details? Might actually have to work out what on earth my code is. Details. It is a string. Okay, so this is just a string. Private read-only details. We're going to make them all private to start with, and we'll work it out from there. Private read-only type is a string, and then we're going to have gets is an int, puts is an integer. Oh, see, I'm learning keywords here. Counters enabled. Oh, number. I don't know how to program. Counters, hits as well. Puts, gets, hits, and then counters enabled, which is a Boolean. Love it. How joyous this is. And this returns some kind of cache structure, which I know that you can annotate and make a type for this. But one thing at a time. Would you agree? Report does none. What is that? Hash, static hash returns get hash. Get hashes returns a string, so we can do a string here. Wonderbar. This makes me very happy, friends. This is actual programming. If result.hit, haha, does not type on type void, because now we need to type this with a get response or something. Get response. How are we going to? Now we have to learn how to make a sort of structure type. So, and this is also, the stats thing here needs to return it. So let's think about this. And also, I guess, can we make this virtual, whatever, pure virtual, abstract. Is that abstract a keyword? Oh, it's a keyword. Only appear within an abstract class. Or abstract class? Oh, cannot be made protected. Okay, well, how does that work? Can be made protected. Oh, okay, this is great. Progress is being made. So now we need to know how to make TypeScript make a type. I'm sure I could probably just Google around. Creating types from types. No, I don't want to do that. Generics. No, not that much. No, this seems too complicated. There's going to be some code already in the code base that is .ts. Properties.ts. Come on, one of these things is going to return something beautiful that I can steal. Look at this. Not that. Somewhere we've got some TypeScript, surely. Compiler star.ts. What TypeScript files have we got? Those are all in lib asm docs index.ts avr assembly document. Yeah, let's try one of these. Okay, assembly instruction info equals record. There we are. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we've got something to copy paste from. I'd love to pretend that I understood enough of programming to make this really a thing. So this is going to be. We don't even need to export it potentially, but this is a get response. Is a record. And it is tooltip or HTML or a URL or string, which I don't think that's really what we want here. So in .interfaces files, okay, I need to learn what a .interfaces file is. So that's useful. Interfaces.ts, excellent. Lib star, okay, we don't have anything currently that has interfaces.ts in the server side of things, so let's go and steal one of these things here. Export interface, export type. Aha, okay, got it. So it's not a record type thing. Right, let's just write it here first, and then we'll go and move it into an interface afterwards. So we're going to say export type get response equals splat splat, and now we're going to have it is oh, it's an internal type. I don't know how get internal response. We're going to call this internal result. In fact, is what it is. And it is hit, which is a Boolean, and the other thing, which is an any type, basically, which is, so let's go find our S3 one. Our S3 one returns hit false or data, and it's an any. Data any, where it could even be nothing at all. So, pursuant to new file base.interfaces.ts. Yep, all the things. We're going to move you in there. No, we're not. We're going to use the IDE to move you in there because I'm far too lazy to do it myself. So, to cache base.interfaces.ts refactor. Brilliant, it moved. And then we're going to need to steal this bit up here because otherwise everything complains. And then we have to remember what year we're in, which amazingly somehow is 2022. And this is a get internal result. And presumably, because it's abstract, I can do that. Did you mean to write promise? I did mean to write promise, but presumably I can do that. And you're complaining cannot be used with the abstract modifier. Well, we'll do it that way then. And then maybe we can get rid of the disable no unused files. I'm going to get rid of it because if we need it, we'll come back to it. And this is an abstract which takes a key. Well, let's at least get our parameter types in here. String, value is a string, and then creator is an optional string, which I think is this. Do we do it like that? Is that how the magic works? It looks like it. And then this is going to be just a promise of none, or something like that. Or what was it? Just an empty promise, or just an empty promise? No. Oh, well, that there. And then you are a promise, add generic argument of. How do I do a promise of none things then? I don't want a promise that doesn't do anything. No? Doesn't seem quite right. What does day 5 of 5 mean? It means that I took this week off of my day job, and so I had 5 whole days, and because my kids are at school and my wife has made herself scarce, bless her, I had sort of freedom to do this, and so after this, yeah, I'm back to normal, which means I have to go and earn money and keep out of the way of my family. Key is an object. That is correct. I think you are right because all of these implementations, yeah, I think it is promise void. Thank you. Right, I'm catching up with you all as well now. So key is indeed an any, I think, or object any. Probably just any. Let's go with any for now. And then this is going to... Oh, this does return a get this is a promise get internal result, which is no longer an internal result. We're going to use it both internally and externally, so it's just a get result. Love it. This dot gets, wait, this, if we got a hit, then we get, so this just wraps the underlying thing and does all the stats. So key, any, value, any, creator, query, string, optional string, I believe, is what we want to do here. And it doesn't return anything, which means, should I do this? Do you think this is the right thing to do for things where I've deliberately said, oh, did he mean to do promise? Yes, I did mean to do promise of void. But for other generic things where we definitely don't do anything, I think that shows that, like, hey, yeah, I thought about this and it doesn't return anything. I think that makes sense to me. And now this is going to return a stats or cache stats object, which we're going to go and write. I'm going to steal that and go over here, export type get cache stats equals, and then somewhere in here I'm sure I can make this into, there's a bit of trickery. So you're getting to see how an old man learns a programming language that he doesn't really know. And this is brilliant because for the longest time the rest of the Compiler Explorer family of friends have been writing in TypeScript, and I've been putting off learning it because of the aforementioned age and such like. So I'm now finally learning these things. So how is this looking? You are angry because of various lines. What are you doing here? Oh, we'll worry about that in a minute. It says before import groups. Why do you think that's a different import group? And you're saying, oh, I don't get it. Why are you so angry? These things, either that needs to be there, and now you're angry because logger shouldn't be there. Logger should import before ... utils. Yes, I know. Or is it, it's probably that needs to go there. Is that it? Should be at least one empty line between import groups. Is that what you're angry about? Fix import order. There you go. And now you're going to complain about this? Fix import order. Aha. Now are you happy? All right. I don't understand the logic, but I see. The same directory stuff needs to be in a separate group. I used to understand some of this stuff. Excuse me. Try not to choke to death in the meantime. Okay, where are we? Static hash, get internal, all that good stuff. Hit or miss. Wonderful. Okay, so cache base is now converted. Is it possible that these JavaScript things incompatible override? Yeah, you see now we're getting all the good stuff happening. All right, where are we going to start from? Let's go back to our S3 and see if that we're even on the right track with all of that. So here we are in S3 land. We know the cache name is going to be a string. We know the bucket is going to be a string. We know the path is going to be a string. We know the error region is going to be a string. And we know the on error is going to be an error, comma, string going to a void. Wonderful. And you is not assignable to the same type. Okay, so this returns a promise of a get result, as we know it should be. And you are... and now angry you are. Property data. Well, there isn't any. Excuse me. So now we know that the data is undefined effectively. Is it going to complain if I put undefined there? No, apparently that's fine. Well, that's better. I prefer that. I can also make a type out of the function, but yes, it's only in one place. I'm not too worried about it, but that's useful to know. And then you're angry because get does not return one of those, but it will do soon. Now we've got to work out why it's in the interfaces there. Maybe this needs... Yeah, it's weird that this S3 bucket is there and it's returning a particular type like that, but we're going to do it for now. And then we're going to question why it's a get result here and why get result isn't just in some top level. So if this was a C++ application, this, depending on get result in base interfaces, that just doesn't seem, that's not Cricket. That's not the right place for this to be. So I don't know where this is going to be. So we're just going to, for now, to do, where should this live? Because it's kind of used in a bunch of places. And yeah, data undefined, wonderful. And this is a promise of that. Of course it is. We've learned that. And while we're here, we've done annotations here. You're angry. You're no longer angry. Get delete is a promise of none. Promise of void, even, or coid. Oh no, it is not. It is return false. Who all are you? Because this doesn't seem like anyone is calling this. Who calls delete? Seriously, does anyone call delete? Nobody calls delete. That I can easily imagine is the case, that it's a speculative generality put inside here. Who in fact is using S3 bucket? Is this even being used in anywhere useful? Libcache and libstorage both use it. Okay, so it is kind of shared code between the storage and the cache, and storage is used to like save stuff. Oh, and I'm just going to quickly check on something. Okay, so there's something not quite right with the modeling at the moment, but we'll get over that. So this get results in the wrong place. This delete, clearly, let's just, while we're here, we might as well do all this kind of stuff. I don't think anyone's using it, but what the heck, we might as well make it make sense. So key again is, this is a string. At this point we have this key is a string and the path is a string. So this is correct. That is a correct thing. Here, string, string, string. Options is kind of an any, except it's not really an any because we've got some other things going on in here. Redundancy and metadata. I think for now we're going to call that an any because life is a little bit too short and there's too many things going on at once. And you are angry because promise result is not assignable to type void. Well, what is it then? Promise result of D and E. You know, now we're into the world of whatever a D and E is inside Amazon's request. Put object is a result. Oh, come on, we can do it somewhere in here. Put object output. Well, you know what we can do is we can make this a promise of void, and we just return await that. Oh no, we just await it. Ha! Now it's a promise of void. Okay, let's do a quick check-in on our output here and see if we have any new misses, which we don't. Of course we don't. So we have no new misses. Do we have any actual logs inside Compiler Explorer logs? Our survey says no. So apparently I can't set up storage logging or whatever this thing is, server access logging. So given that it's not working, I'm going to disable it because I don't know what the heck happened and I'm scared. And I don't want to like leave something running with information that I don't really fully understand. So we still have a gigantic mystery about this, and Yeah, my guess is somehow the permissions aren't working and there's just a bunch of errors. If I'm going to find somewhere else. But what you going to do? All right, so back to the code then. Yeah, this options any, it is actually hurting me. But yeah, stop being lazy, Gobot. So S3 handler dot what are we calling these things? Interfaces dot add, and I don't really understand why we have to separate these things. So Partouf, if you want to opine and give me some great thoughts as to why that would be wunderbar. So we're going to say export type S3, what do we call this? This is S3 handler, S3 handler options. That's a really bad name, but we're going to go with it for now. And then it's going to be redundancy, which I'm going to model as a string, as an optional string. Can I do that? I can. And then metadata as well, which is an optional object thingy that goes here. Lovely. Now, put object takes params put object request. So in here we do actually have the type for that redundancy. Redundancy beginning with the letter R, PQR. There it is, storage class. So we can actually go and steal that. That's kind of sweet, isn't it? So redundancy is not this. It's actually a storage class. Hey, types, everybody. And now you are angry because no overload matches this class. Because what? Excuse me. Because no overload object literal may only known properties and bucket does not exist in type. AWS error put object output. All right, let's use the power of commenting out code until it starts to work. All right, what about you? Okay, you're angry because metadata is not actually a metadata. It is metadata. Of course it is. So we can go and say that that is actually metadata from storage class. Okay, and are you now happy? Yes, and how about you? Joy to the world. Yeah, okay, this is making some level of sense. Brilliant. Okay, so you are now happy. Let's go back to our original friend s3.ts and see that this file is now happy. No errors found in file. And then if we go and run the tests, what all happens? It takes a long time, and I don't know why it takes a long time. Cannot read properties of undefined. Reading should. Well, now, because it can't read the bucket anymore. Because I've made the bucket private. Isn't that beautiful? But because we're actually looking at it, we need to make it actually accessible. So live and learn, but what a good starting point. This is really, really great. S3.ts, S3 cache, S3 bucket, private read only. It's not private, but it is read only. I think the instance of the S3 seems like the kind of thing that should remain private. And if I could press the right key, we would even be able to find out if that was going to happen. Who said programming in TypeScript was hard? All right, how long have I been doing this? I'm really surprised my wife hasn't come back yet. Okay, cache.bucket should equal okay. Oops. Stop! Sorry, I had a reminder. Yeah, alright, hang on. I'll be right back. I've got a reminder. Well, rather interestingly, I'd set myself a reminder and I just sort of said, you know, okay, big search company beginning with G, and I gave it the text. And what it's transcribed is so different from what on earth any mortal human would have done. But I do luckily remember what it is, which is to say I have to lock the cat in because the cat's going to the vet now. It's apparently the season where all the animals are going to the vet one day after another. Come on. So, Sarafina is the name of the cat. And what we want to do is say to Sarafina, you can't go out anymore. Settings, kitchen, keep pets in, select. I have, of course, an Internet of Things cat flap that lets me choose which cats can go in and out when. So now they can't go out. Which means they can still come in, and now we can hopefully find her when it comes to pick up the pick her up to take her to the vet. All right, so let's try and work out what happened here. And it could easily be that these tests are not right. So cache, what have we got going on over here? Cache. A cache is an S3 cache, and oh, it's an S3 cache. Of course, we don't even have bucket anymore. We took that out because we know that it doesn't matter. We didn't need to keep it anymore. Let's hope that nothing else needs that bucket. So let's see who else refers to something called .bucket in the whole code base. Params.bucket and cache test storage q.bucket. Oh, well, that's capital B. I think that we will discover anything else. This .bucket is in S3 handler. That's different from the S3. Yeah, okay. We just got rid of that because nothing else was using it. Hooray. And then these cache here, this .path. Oh, that's disk cache it thinks it is. Okay, it's not that. So back to S3.whatever.ts. We've made these also private path and region. Do we check it is path and region? Okay, yeah, we are going to allow them to be not private. And not private, I think. And let's go and check S3 bucket. I think these seem to be reasonable to be things that you can read. Clearly just finding my things. Okay, all right, Juvenile. You are definitely right there. I have an Internet of Things cat flap. All right, all the tests passed there. Oh, no, the test that I ran passed. So we'll go back to cache tests. I'm going to run all of them. Oops, I can find the right key to run them all. Yes, details that can go away. How do I get rid of you? No such file or directory, statins file. I know I deleted it. Okay. No, exactly. This is confusing. Occurred while linting. Well, don't lint it. Stop linting. I'm just asking you to run the tests. Look, run the test. Don't lint anything. No one asked you to lint anything. Maybe I did. Maybe I pressed the wrong key. Yay, everything passed. Excellent. All right. So we have a to-do in the S3 handler interfaces. This, yeah, where do we put the, not S3 handler, there was definitely a base.interfaces.ts. This get result here. Now it's used also by the S3 handler, which is just a more general purpose thing that's used in a couple of places. This is not related to caches, so I don't like the fact that this thing is here, but it's also not specific to S3. It's just a general thing. So I don't know where you would put that. So if anyone has a clue as to why we put things in these .interfaces.ts, because otherwise what I'm going to do is just remove this get result and move it into some of its own file. Because it's not clear to me where you would put it in like some general purpose. Hey, this is just a type. Types folder. A new challenger enters, but where is types? Is that somewhere at the real top level directory? It is. That makes sense. Okay, so we're going to move get result to a file over here. That's an interesting one. All right, well, we'll give it a go. So F6, and then we're going to move you to not lib cache get results to that, but types. Whoops, types, and we're going to call this. I don't even know what to call this. Is the unfortunate thing. Get. Sorry, the teacher is yelling opposite. Get.interfaces.ts. We're going to put it there for now. Yes, fine. Okay. So we're going to steal this blob up here, and get is a terrible name, but we're going to put it there just to make sure that everything actually works, first of all. And did that update the right places? So base.interfaces, base.ts. So we are. See, that looks horrible. Get result from ... types get interfaces. I don't know if that's the right thing. Cache. It's not, but it's not cache though. Partouf. It's not just for caches. It's for anything that can get something or not. So I guess we're going to call it cache though. It's better than anything else I can come up with. And this just looks like a nasty thing, but we'll go with it. So you presumably need to go up there, and then you need to either move in the right spot. There we go. All right, now you're happy, and the get result in cache.interface is lovely. And get result is a promise of a get. That's a promise of a get. Those two can live together, because why wouldn't we not put them apart? I really like this now, and so I think what I said about caches before, cache.interfaces, that's perfect. I mean, it's used for something else, but it's mostly used for caches, so let's stick with that. Okay, back to here. So let's look at the null cache. This should be the easiest one to change to TypeScript. Null.ts. Extends base cache, and then this just needs to be async get internal promise of a what is it, get result. And we've just spent our entire time talking about this, which we import from doc things, and then that has to live above that because of stupid rules. And then this says return thing. I guess actually, you know, all those data undefined I just put in, I can make it so that let's get rid of that. Data undefined. Get rid of this because it's just optional, right? The get result has an optional data, which is sort of a bit weird. Here, it's the reason that it's there is that if you wanted to actually cache a null-ish result, like a null value, or whatever, it's just hedging for the fact that undefined is different from null. But I keep forgetting that they're different, so that's why we have a hit thing that's separate from that. So it seems redundant, and it probably is. And if we were more careful, it would be that. But we have what we have, and you are returning return value over that. Yes, exactly. And are you going to be angry if I just return that? No, you're going to be fine. And then we just do nothing here, and then you're async. And you're override as well, aren't you? Oh, it's like proper programming. Yeah, and in private conversations with Juvenile there, yeah, there's some kind of I've got too many things going on at once, and I missed out some very important words when I was DMing them about things. So yeah, sorry about that. It looks beautiful. S3 is now angry. Why are you angry? You're not angry. Okay, good. It's just you hadn't looked at it. On disk cache. .ts. TS Eliot. Except not TS Eliot. Okay. This .path equals path. Right, I'm going to say read-only path string. Read-only cache MB number. And then definitely private read-only. Maybe that's the other way around. Is it meant to be the other way around? Read-only private. Yeah. Cache, which is an LRU. Other way around? There we are. I can program. My day job. I work for a hedge fund where we buy and sell hedges, and we try to make money. That's not true. No, I do work for a hedge fund. My day job is mostly wrangling quant code. So quants are the folks who do large amounts of sort of discovery over all the data, try to munch it together and find things that are predictive of how a market may move. You know, which things are going up in price, which things are going down in price, that kind of stuff. And their world is mostly Python. So we do a lot of work where we're support them in their ability to read and write their Python. We make frameworks for them and tooling for them. So in short, mostly Python with an occasional glimmer here and there of C++ when we need to do something super quick. Oh, you're a quant for a large bank. So there I am to explain to you your own job. I'm so sorry. Isn't that the worst? Oops. I write the framework that the quants use, or I'm one of the many people who write the framework that the quants use to do their magical work that I don't ever understand as well as I ought to. Yeah, that's me. So okay, those are numbers. We're going to come back to that error over there. For let I has never used const. Yeah, all right, we will. Isn't that nice? Stat string must have an override because it overrides a member in the base cache. Oh, that's fascinating to me. I didn't realize that we had a stat string. Did I see a stat string? We did. There it is. Well, I never. Well, I don't very often. So this is an override. Today I learn, and you are returning a string. Async get internal is an object, isn't it? We know that, and this is also an override. What is that very clicky keyboard? Oh my golly, I forgot how loud my keyboard is. Yes, and of course, when I use Google Meetings to talk to people, then Google's great at filtering it out. It is one of these things. What is it called? It's called the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard, and it's got some offensively loud switches in it because I work at home, and it doesn't matter. I've just ordered a second one for work. I say just, it's been a year now. It still hasn't turned up. With quieter key switches out of the hope of not totally annoying my workmates. But it is great. It's a split keyboard. If you search for Ultimate Hacking Keyboard, it's kind of got its own hackable firmware, and it's got like no F keys. It's got no numpad. It's got no nothing. You have to do all sorts of things with weird chords. It took me ages to get used to, but now I can't live without it. No, don't create class that. Import it. Oh, and now, of course, I've just put it into one of its weird modes because I've been talking about it. Why won't you import there? Looks like it doesn't know to look inside. My ID doesn't know to look inside that types directory for things. So there's got to be a better way of doing that. But we'll do it from here. So this is going to be import get monkey get response from ... types cache.interfaces.ts. Is that the right one? Oh, it's because that's called get results. That's why it's not auto-completing, because I was typing the wrong thing. Not as loud as my squeaky mouse wheel. Yes. All right, yes. My Amazon Basics mouse, which I shouldn't even be using because that... Oops, now I've just knocked Coke everywhere. But my Amazon Basics mouse has a very squeaky mouse wheel, which is now covered in Coke. So I'm just going to grab something from over here to mop it up with. Perils of live stuff. There we go. Well, there I go, my notes. And I guess I'm going to get more traction on my desk now with the sticky Coke everywhere. Right. Done. So, where were we? Is my mouse still working? It is. Excellent. Okay, we've got a promise of a get result and no known errors there. Key is an object. Here we're going to say key is a also is an object, and value. It seems to think value is a string here, but we know that it's an object. And you know, there's two remarkably stupid ways of misspelling the word object. And you return a promise of none void. And oh, isn't that interesting? Put internal is assuming that this is this key. Have I just mucked this up completely? Base cache key any put internal key, and then put internal looks like this, and then who all does this? So let's pick a, you know, our S3 cache. S3.put key is a string. No, our key has to be a string here, because S3.put here, this key is a string, and all we do is we put it there. So that is fair. So this key is a string. This value is a string, and this creator is an optional string, and this is going to be a promise of none, of null, of none, of void. Void! There we are. And then options, s3.push. And it says metadata, and you're now angry because S3 handler options is no longer. What if I were to say you were some S3 handler options here, and now created by string or undefined is not a type. Is not a string or undefined. Type undefined is not a. So okay, we do actually need to do the code that we had right at the beginning, if you remember that, which was something like. In fact, I can do the little undo badger thing here. There we go. Object is possibly undefined. Well, it isn't, because we're saying options.metadata. But it isn't. I can see that it's not. It's right there. If I were to do that, now it's complaining. Well, this is a fine pickle. Typing is brilliant, but so here it doesn't know that this specific instance of it definitely has metadata. So I know how to get around this, but it's not all that beautiful. So here we're going to say creator query created by creator else empty thing, which is slightly horrible, but everything is now happy with that. And obviously it wouldn't expand if we wanted any more in there. That wouldn't work very well. Okay, so we know that this is definitely a string. So this is not key any, this is key string. This is key string. This is key string. Value any, which is odd, and now I'm confused because now value is being turned into a buffer. Yeah, I'm with you. This is very unfamiliar to me too. This is a string too. So where along the line does somebody use this hash function to make a string? So when we, for example, this is like the motivating example right here at the top, as I was saying. We get this key. This is a composite key. This compiler cache key is in fact an object. Compiler key cache, we do hash object, and then we do get IC. So that is where it would seem like the hash it would seem like the caching system ought to do that hashing stuff for you, but it doesn't. Yes, if you're used to C++ and used to types, obviously most of our code doesn't have types in it, but this one does apparently. Now, sorry, this one is starting to, we're teaching it about types by moving from JavaScript, which is essentially untyped, to TypeScript, which is a kind of transpiled version of what is that buffer.from now? I'm trying to, what does this return? Returns a buffer. Oh, it says, hang on a second, this is if not value.put. So now value, now I've realized what it's saying here is if it's not already a buffer, make it a buffer before we call put internal. So put internal, this value here is not a string. So I have no idea why you're so surprised. This is, what is buffer from? Array buffer, shared buffer. Oh God, this is where you pick up things and go, what on earth is that? So this is not a string. And we know that put internal definitely takes a value which is a buffer. And now I suspect this is going to be very angry everywhere. No. On disk cache. Key, string. We know it's a string. Value is a buffer. Info looks like that. Now we're happy in here. Get internal key is a string. Beautiful. Love it. Okay. So we're sort of iterating, slowly finding the code spelunk. And what does write file take? It takes a thing. Data isn't any. So presumably sending it a buffer does the obvious thing here. Perfect. Okay, back up the stack to our code here. Put internal. So if we go to put internal, look at all of the so S3 cache, we now know that the key is definitely a string and the value is a buffer. And this S3 put takes this value, which is a string, and the body here, presumably, if we look at what put object takes, it will take a buffer as well. Put object request. A put object request body is a body, and a body is a buffer or a uint array or a blob or a string or a readable. So we can actually take a buffer in the thing here. That is correct. So we're going to take a path. Value is a buffer. And it's still happy because a buffer is okay to be passed as the body as well. Excellent. You're angry because you need to move up there. Okay, everything seems happy in this file. S3 handler interfaces. Okay, back to the caches. S3.TypeScript. Everything happy in here? Okay, you're just angry because get result needs to move up here to the top. And then S3 handler.interfaces goes there. And now no errors found in this file. Brilliant. On disk. All right, back to here. Now we've got some angry, no overload matches this call. Overload 1 of 3. Previous, current index array. This is a bit of copy pasted from the internet code. Hooray, the best kind. As you can see, at least I've put a link to it there. So my guess is we need to do something like don't care about the rest of the parameters. Does that work? No. Okay. So previous value, current index array. So it's got a files of any array. Why do you think that's an any array? If I actually tell it string, is it less angry with me now? No, still unhappy. I'm not even looking at what this code is doing, you know, between us folks here. Current index, so let's just say index and array, index and array. Does that shut it up? Number, array? No. Initial value. Oh, because it's meant to return a string, and we're returning an array because I'm calling a reduce operation and I'm passing it in an empty thing. This is meant to be recursively getting all the files in a directory. I've just realized what this is. So you are actually an array of string. File is a string. And now you're happy because you've understood that this is actually, this empty array is in fact an array of strings, just an empty array of strings. It couldn't infer that. Hooray, it actually makes some level of sense to me. And now you're angry. Expected 2 arguments, but got 1. Get all files path. Oh yeah, root comma dir. Dir equals dir or root. Well, do we ever call it with anything else? We do. Haha, so this is a string. And this is maybe a string. And now let's just give this, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Actual dir. Make sure dir isn't mentioned anywhere else. Yeah, there's got to be a better way of doing that. Oldest first. Why are you angry with oldest? A determiner maybe, Mini. Well, you can go away. Okay, there's no other errors that I care about in that document. Alleged grammar ones. Brilliant. Okay, let's do the in-memory cache next. In-memory cache is going... Well, let's run the tests. Hey, we have tests. Run them. Run the tests. Try not to knock over any more drinks. And they still work. Excellent. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted by making sure I hadn't left anyone in the lurch in the Compiler Explorer Discord, which I encourage you to join if you're interested in Compiler Explorer. You can find it in our README. Okay, here we are. Extends base class. So let's do the first thing about inmemory.jz, and let's make it .tz. Fabulous. Constructor, cache name. It takes a string. Cache megabytes is going to be a number, isn't it? Or a number. And then we're going to say, not private, we're going to say read only cache MB is a number. And we're going to say private read only cache LRU. I think that seems to be the right way around for those things. Stat string, it is indeed an override. Hooray. And it returns a string. Get internal. So this is also an override, and it returns a promise of a get result, which I will finally remember is called a get result, and then hopefully the IDE will go, yeah, I know what a get result is. I can go and get it from where it is. Yay! Okay, and this says returned promise.resolve. Yeah, I don't think there's a need for us to do that anymore, which is quite sweet. There's a lot of quaint old code here. And then not cached. Object literal is not assignable to type of promise get result. May only specify known properties, and hit does not exist in type promise. All right, well apparently I can't. Oh, because if I make this async, now it will work. Yay, because async is magic and all the things. Wonderful. Wonderful. This one is also override async. and it takes a key, and it takes a value. A key is a string which it correctly identifies, and a buffer is a what buffer, and the creator is actually real there, and then a creator is ignored actually. I think we can just do that, right? And then we can just do that, and it returns a promise of. I don't know if that's is this typical for people to do, is to like reiterate all of the things that are overrides, but that seems to be everything. So we will run the caches while I continue on and look at multi.js, which is some kind of like composite cache. Multi.ts refactor. By the way, Partouf, if you're listening, ho ho ho, this is going to be quick. This is how it is, but I love this. This has actually been a really, really great example of like me learning and being able to take full advantage of the fact that some people who know what they're doing are on the stream. So that's great. Add an override, and you're going to return a string. Here, multi, this counters enabled equals false. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, because we turn off the counters. Ah. I think probably... Can we make that protected? Probably. What does this do even? I don't try and work out. Oh, yeah, I see. Yes. No, I'm very glad you suggested it too, mate. No, honestly, I know I just had a bit of a complaint, but... So, complaint is a field, and it's not an any thingy, and it's going to be private, and it's going to be read-only until the tests tell us otherwise. And it's not an any, it's actually a base cache, because this is going to be a list of the other things that we're going to use in our cache. Okay. C is details and private, and is only accessible within base cache. Oh, well, that's great. Private, read-only, details. Well, now just not private, because it seems to make sense. I could actually make it protected, I guess, but it seems to sort of make sense to me that it's available in the outside world. So upstream, propagate hit to missed caches. I think that's some kind of internal function here. It is. So let's make that private, because I can do that now. Await. Do I need to do that as well? I think it makes more sense for me to call it that. And here, this is going to be a array of base cache. I think, is array what you do, or is it just, no, it's just going to be base cache splat, or base cache p, like that. Key is going to be our friendly key, which we now know is a string, and data is going to be our buffer that we finally learnt that it is a buffer. And the whole of this thing is going to what? In fact, yeah, we can just await that, and we're going to be a promise of void, because we don't actually care what the result is. Okay, and you are angry because caches.map C mapping to C of put data splat paren expected. Okay, have I just been to overzealous? That one. Yes, okay, I got carried away. That makes sense. So we're going to say for all these things, the pack, just put them all together asynchronously. We don't care. Get internal is a string, and it returns a promise of your friend and mine get result, which one day I will spell correctly. Add import from there. Yes. And you are also an override, right? It's really an implementation, but that seems to be right. Okay. Const misses is a cache array, whatever that thing is called. Base cache array. And use a comma to keep track of caches that miss, so we can write them if we do hit. See, that's just... stupid thing. Okay. Async, put internal, object, string, value, buffer, creator, question mark, string, returning a promise of don't care. And now we're just going to await promise.all, this.upstream.map, cache mapping to return cache.put. Well, we don't need the return in there because we can just do that, and then we can get rid of one line of that, and then that comes up here, and then that comes up there. And then have I got all of the right closing? That and that and there. Okay. Beautiful. Fits on one line and hopefully is straightforward enough. Okay. And you're just angry. Don't be angry. All cache is missed. It's a beautiful thing. Everything in here is now TypeScript, with the exception of the thing that creates them. We have done a tour of the caching system. Rather sadly, we were unable to get Charles's excellent idea to log accesses so we could work out what on earth is going on. No. Yeah, we were unable to get that working, which was a shame. Although actually, I'm sure we've seen this before. Thinking of this, Charles, in our node, which just used a test case which had a local file directory, and it had the same problem. So it sort of smells like it isn't actually a problem with the. Oh God, sorry, my having a moment of a brain fart. It isn't a problem specifically with S3. It is a problem with the caching, which does again point back at the somehow it is the JSON non-consistent hashing, non-deterministic stuff, which I have a fix for. But again, I don't want to just deploy that and just go, hey, it's probably that. Okay, let's finish this whole thing off, and we can get through. A nice commit, or at least a pull request, and then take stock of where we are, given that it is 1:30. From config.ts. Well, that just oh no, it's now it's angry with me. Excellent. What's the first error? ... params. A spread argument must either have a tuple type or be passed to a rest parameter. Uh-oh. We are, yeah, that's just me being lazy here. There must be a way of doing that nicely, but let's start from the very beginning. Julie Andrews or Rodgers and Hammerstein had some very important considerations about that being a very good place to start. So param int takes a config and a param. What does this do? We try and parse the param, and then we say bad prins config. Okay, so where do we call this with? Config. Config is a string. Got it. Okay, so these are both strings. And this is going to return a number. And it's just trying to parse it in a nice way and come up with something halfway decent. Name, string, config, string. And this returns a base cache. This is our function that lets us... So partouf. When we're importing base cache, should this be somehow in the interfaces? That's the thing I don't really know about, or whether it should implement an interface. That's one for when you catch up on the stream. If you have opinions, that would be great. But yeah, what this function is about is it's about parsing our configuration syntax, which is how we determine these things. So if I go into compiler explorer Amazon.properties, these strings in memory, blah, or S3, or whatever, these strings are parsed to construct a cache with the right parameters. So that is how that works. Excuse me. Okay, so base cache from base. Let's format the whole file. If not config, new cache, parts. So we're going to split on this. If we've got more than one of them, then we're going to make a multi-cache where for every everything that's separated by a semicolon, we're going to call create internal for each of those individually. So that means that we get a nice, in this case, what we get is a multi-cache, which has an in-memory cache and an S3 cache in that particular case over there. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Otherwise, const match. If not that, unable to parse. Brilliant. Const params, switch match 1. Well, why don't we give these things names? because that's a nice thing we can do these days. Each of these parenthetical things here is I guess it's not such important. There's only two of them in this instance here. Yeah, an actual interface would be nice. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We'll come back to that. And sorry for the delay in the... But anyway, each of these, then we split the commas out. So that gives us like the parameters, as it were, for each of these. In memory, and we do this, that, and the other. Otherwise, S3 cache, and this is just laziness on my part. We know that there are exactly three, so we can do params 0, 1, and 2. Bucket, path, region. 5 arguments, but got 4. Hang on. S3 cache takes a cache name, a bucket, a path, a region. And on error, aha, which of course is optional, which I hadn't marked before. And now everything is amazing and groovy. And then we export, takes a string, takes a config string, and it returns a base cache. Which is, so we could extract an actual interface called base cache or cache, and then base cache could be like abstract cache or something like that. Today we learn. Lots of learnings today. Very pleased about that. Oh, and here we are getting the result.details out again as well. Who all gets the gets and whatever? I think they're used in tests. Lib cache. Yeah, it's used in that, and cache get, yeah. In this.cache.gets, yeah, and report cache every, okay, got it, yeah. So those things are, it does make sense for them to be visible from the outside world. Okay, so let's go back to the tests. See what these things. I've only been running the cache tests all this time as well, so there are many other tests that we will run in a second, but they seem targeted enough to be able to run. I don't know why it takes so long to start the test up anymore. That didn't used to be the case. Okay, that's lovely. Multi-caches worked, so I'm pretty confident. So I suggest we come back over here, take stock of where we are, git add -a, git status. Lots of renames, lots of new things, and this is port cache subsystem to TypeScript. And now we'll let it do its magical things. And then I'll do the extraction. I will do that base class extraction. I think that's the right thing to do. Yeah, I'm not against having interfaces being starting with an I. That's fine to me too. That's kind of a Windows holdover from, you know, I unknown com. Gosh, that was a while ago. Doop-a-doo. All the tests are belong to me. Unfortunately, our test coverage is not excellent. The caching subsystem just happens to be one that is pretty well covered by tests. So last night, I did actually synchronize down the entire cache from the remote side. And so I've got some other ideas about trying to trying to work out the actual problem that we're dealing with here, the fact that we were missing the cache unexpectedly. So that looks good to me. Let's go to our friend the base cache and see if we can't refactor. Can we extract interface? Yes, we can. Interface name, cache, destination file. varlib cache. Yeah, base.interfaces.ts is where we're going to extract it to. Okay. What all members in the new interface? Well, we know it's going to have cache name, details, type, gets, puts, hits. Counters enabled I'm not going to put into the base class because it's only used in one special case. But then all of these things here, except for get internal and put internal, because those are actually part of the abstract idea. I'm sorry if this is too small. Let's try this out. Extract interface and use it wherever possible. Why wouldn't we do that? Why would I not press the magical button? See what happens. Okay, implements cache, base cache, and then we're going to rename base cache to, actually, no, one thing at a time. Let's leave it as base cache, right? Implements cache. So a cache looks like this. What do we win? Cache stats is cache stats. Cache stats. Stats string is a string. Report, it's the void thing. Get and put. Seems pretty straightforward. We have cache name, details, type, gets, puts, and hits. Seems pretty reasonable. These can't be read-only then. Can that be read-only in an interface? I'd like to think it could be. I don't know if that makes any difference. I'm not really sure what the semantics are of this. Base cache, implements cache, yes. Read-only, 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 cache details, names, types, cache, yep. And then we have this protected counters enabled. Brilliant. Okay. So, who all is using the cache now? Let's go and have a look at from config. So create internal returns a base cache. Well, actually, it's just a cache as far as we're concerned. Return result. Base cache is missing. Cache. You need to be case cache from base.interfaces. Ha! Ha! See? Nobody needs to know that we've got that horrible implementation thing where we've got the base class and the abstract nonsense. It's like, this is all you should care about, is the fact that you get a cache back. That's exactly right. Now, in memory is a base cache. Multi is a base cache. Those haven't changed, so I know they haven't been touched. So that's wonderful. Okay, so who all calls create cache from config? The tests do, of course they do. And this .cache here in compilation environment. So okay, we're now back into JavaScript world. A cache back. Good call. So these will eventually be marked as just caches. We don't need to care what they were made from. At the moment, there's no typing in here, and I'm not going to start introducing it here. That's just far too much work in one go. So then our base here, I'm just going to call this, I think base cache works enough for me. It's kind of an abstract thing, but I think this is that makes the most sense for me. That's pretty cool. I like it. I like that. All right, so git commit, and this is extract an interface class. Yeah, actually, who all else is importing base cache is base cache.hash object. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we've got this. Well, this is another thing. This is another thing. We might want to consider making the hashing stuff, rather than it being a static function that lives outside, but we actually put it into the caching system, and then we can change the key to be an object once again, and then that means that we don't have to have this call to this static function base cache.hash, which is like bleh, we don't want that. And it's just, I mean, it's just this as well, which is terrible. So I think we should push that into the base cache. No one should know that that exists, but one thing at a time. So we're going to extract an interface class. Wait a few years. And then this is going to be a fun thing to track down. So how many people call base cache.hash? That's going to be our clue. And that also means finally I'm going to move the logging into the base cache, which means that I can get a consistent idea about whether or not we got the same hash value or not. At the moment, we kind of do it twice. One place we call base cache.hash here, and if it's somehow done differently somewhere else, right, I don't know. Oh no, because there are some things here where we get different keys. Oh. Well, we can do this a different way. The issue of like causing more cache misses when we deploy this, but that's not going to be a big problem, I think. We can just literally do something like just to make it different. But really, I don't think it's this that we're going to have a problem with that, because we put it in two different caches. It's an executable cache versus a compiler cache. So I think we probably have always done this as a slightly, FUD-ish way of doing it. Right, what do we got here? Okay, we're in a pretty good spot there. So we have, that's not a hash, that's not a hash, that's not a hash. Static generated again, that's not. So those are not things that use the hash. We've got executable, we've got cache get, cache put, compiler cache get, compiler cache put, executable push, executable put, and executable get. So I think we can now do that final transformation where we move everything down into the get. Oh no, because file path, destination folder plus key. I see. We actually need to know what the key was. Maybe I shouldn't change that at the same time. That seems like another thing to change that could potentially go wrong. Doesn't it, everyone? But I tell you what we could consider doing. Right? So the thing that I was talking about was this... if not result.hit, I see. Yeah, no. All right. Yeah, I'm now going to do one other thing, which is sort of somewhat unrelated to this. Does this thing have a CENV? It does, doesn't it? CE props. It does have a CE props. Wonderful. And that is my concern is I put this logging in. If you remember, we saw the logging, we saw the hit and the miss, and I put the logging at this level of the cache. So I actually have to call the base cache.hash function again, which means that potentially if there was, like, even between calls of hashing a problem, then we might see different results here. So I'm also going to move this into the compiler cache get. And so cost result, and we do this. And so if this false, we're not going to do base cache.hash again here because we actually have got the key. That's key. This becomes object, and then this becomes result.hit. This is a much better thing to do. So this is kind of orthogonal to the other changes that we've made here. But now the logging will happen with the key that we actually asked, and not the, by coincidence, same code. But if we're really suspecting all sorts of weird things going on, which I am at the moment, then we really just need to have a consistent way we need to log what we actually did and not what we thought we did. Okay. Let's save that. And do you know what? I'm going to stash that, and I'm going to do that separately. So let's do git checkout-b log cache hits with from comp env. That's not really a very good name, but this should just git stash pop git diff git and dot git commit -m, and this is move cache logging into a place where we have the key, because we didn't have the key. We're just trying to do the same key again. And sorry, again, the screaming of children is there outside, and I have no response from my wife. So yeah, what I don't know what Google Reminder thought I said. I don't even remember what I asked it to say. But the reminder that popped up at 1 o'clock, which was for me to close the cat flap, was put the cat skin on Ko-fi. So that's pretty good. I think it's fair to say that language is not a solved problem yet. Natural language parsing is not a solved problem. It's pretty good most of the time. And I don't always speak that clearly, as I'm sure you're all abundantly aware. Where are we? Nearly 2 o'clock. Good grief. Well, so my treat to myself, if I got all this done, was I was going to look, as I say, at the Redis cache and see if that was worthwhile doing. Now, I actually did do some quick S3 prototyping just to see how fast the S3 cache is, to find that there isn't something there. Because, of course, the cache that we've been talking about all this time is this compilation-based cache, but we also use, the compiler cache where we run -- help. But obviously, every single request that goes to the site also gets hashed and checked in the cache. And so the latency of asking S3, is this here or not, is on every single request we make. And so I was thinking, well, if it's a long time, then Redis is probably faster. So I don't know what your thoughts are. You can put a chat in the your guess as to how fast is it to go to S3 and say, is this object present? Or rather to say, try and get object X, and to get the result back saying, 404 not found. So have a think about what you think that is, and we'll actually do a thing on this because hopefully we have got time for that. Anyway, get push, get. So I'm going to do 2 PRs. There's this one. Yep, and then we're going to git check out git ref log, which is the AKA I can't remember. Where were we before? Log cache hits from comp-env. No, freshen cache. That's what we called it. Git check out freshen cache. Freshen. Yep, git push. And I'm just too lazy to type that in. I know there's a thing you can set to make it work. Patif, I'm not quite sure. I've only just looked back over and seen your haha what. Is that reference to 2N2's keyboard splat or something I said? So now we have a couple of things that we can put here. So I'm just going to read through the change very quickly, and I'm actually going to put Matt's JLA as a reviewer, as well as, I'm sure, Partouf, if you'll forgive me for not making you a review on this because you've been watching it too. And in fact, half of this is yours as well, but obviously you feel free to review it. So 2022, cache stats look like hits, puts, and gets. The cache looks like this, and it returns cache stats, promise of a get result. Now, the get result just happens to not be in here because we use it somewhere else, and it's used in a couple of places. That's kind of yucky, but it's fine. Import changes. Cache. We're just annotating types here. There's just some formatting differences here. This looks so beautiful. I'm so pleased with this. Yep, I'm just skim reading to make sure nothing too untoward leaps out at me before I say, yeah, this is worth wasting someone else's time reading through and finding my typos. Yep, we don't need to do anything there. Put in terminal is just empty now, which is great. There may be a nicer way of doing that, but sorry, I've just realized how small that is. So let me zoom it to the point where it's vaguely readable. And on error, another one here, handler options, storage class. X of any, which we didn't like, but it seems to do the needful thing. We've got our new tests here. Well, this is mostly reformatting thanks to our new formatting. Yeah, unfortunate, but what can you do? Throw S3 error. There's our new little bit of code that's not very nice, but it makes us do the thing. New return cache should then, and then we should some S3 error. Yes, that's the thing. That's just formatting. Okay, yeah, that seems like that passes the. I haven't left anything too egregious in there. So let's write a bit more of a thing. Freshen the cache code, as in bring the cache code up to date. Type. Let's just call this port cache code to TypeScript. I think that pretty much covers everything. But what do we do? Mainly adds some tests for S3 error behavior, extracts a cache interface, and makes the base cache abstract. I think that's pretty much it. Let's click the button. Love it. Wonderful. Go back over here, and then we can say, hey, this thing also had recent changes. Reviewers match JLA. What? We haven't even created this. Is it just remembered that from before? That seems surprising to me. This one I'm not even going to put a reviewer on. I'm just going to look at it myself. We like to just do these things when we get all of the tests running. Let's just make sure nothing else happened in here. Oh, crap. Of course it's formatted the bloody file because it does. But there's the real bit of code. I mean, again, gradually we're reformatting the whole world, which is going to be painful, but there. So a good question. So Austin measured S3 point. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Fast when it's a miss. Yeah. So we'll do a measurement in a second. But I was just more interested in if people had a good instinct about what it would be, and we'll just go and do that in a sec. I did pre-game that, so I'm not as good as I sound. The question here, yeah, it checks memory first. Obviously, if we miss memory, then we'll go off to S3. I don't know if it tries to do them all in parallel. I don't know that it does that. How many requests per day would try to get something from the S3 cache? Pretty much all of them, unless it happens to hit the memory cache. And that is approximately 3 million a day. So we do about not 3 million, sorry. We do 3 million a week. So we do about, well, let's go and have a look and remind ourselves. So so far in the last 24 hours, we've done 338,000 C++ compilations. And then some other things, but we're talking 300 plus 50,000 there. It's, to a first approximation, we're talking 400,000 compilations a day, which means 400,000 hits to S3, or attempts to hit S3, I should say. And that is part of our cost. If I go and have a look at, where is it? Cost Explorer? No, Cost Explorer? AWS Cost Explorer. And if I zoom in so that you can see what's going on in here, somewhere in here, I can never find these things. AWS is honestly the worst for trying to work out where anything is. It's almost like they're incentivized for you to not be able to use their product. So like our cost per month for everything we do with S3 is only about $70. So it's not like we're getting stung for thousands and thousands of requests to S3. We're spending $300 a month on EC2 instances, but that's kind of that's the work, right? There's the storage, $180 a month for Elastic File System is something we would like to get down, and then the rest of it is sort of mostly de minimis after that. So total costs, and this includes some of my own personal stuff. And for those who follow me on Patreon, thank you, first of all. Thank you very much. Follow me, support me on Patreon. Whenever I do my accounts to work out how people, where the money goes and who's paying for what and how that works, I have tagging to separate my own AWS usage from Compiler Explorer's usage. So is kind of properly accounted for. It would be much easier and better though if I had a separate AWS account, which is what this is supposed to be about. But what can you do? Yeah, it's a pattern, says Partouf. Is $1 per million GET requests. Yeah, I think we'll live then on that front. Thank you, Martin, for your thoughts. And I think my wife has just come home, so if I have to awkwardly stop soon, it's because she doesn't really want to be on display quite reasonably, and I don't have much of a way of anywhere else to hide in the house. So if the dog will start barking in a second. Okay, we said let's go and measure how long it takes to access S3. So the way that I was going to do this is I'm actually going to abuse my ability to log into production. I'm going to, within my own lifetime hopefully, log into one of our instances in production so I can get access to something which looks exactly like something that's actually running the code. 1 second. So I'm going to pick one of these instances, and then I am going to go to infra.deploy. So this is where I happen to know where everything is going to be. So this is the code of a version of Compiler Explorer, and then I'm going to run opt bin node opt Compiler Explorer bin node bin node, and now I'm running an interpreter of oh no, I need to tell it to use ESM. And now I want to do is, yeah, look, phew, this is the same node I did earlier. Okay, so I can import that S3 bucket class, the very one we've been working with, and then I can say S3 bucket, or B equals S3 bucket, and we're going to say what bucket is this? We're going to be storage.godbolt.org, and it's going to be in US East 1. No, new. And so there we are. That's us making the class. Excuse me. Now we're going to do await b dot what do we call get? And get takes a, what does get take? We've just been looking at this. You'd think I'd be able to remember, right? So we're talking about S3 bucket, so which is in that S3 handler. S3 bucket, get key and a path. So the key here is going to be not present, and the path is going to be cache. Doesn't really matter what it is, because what we're going to do is we're going to say it was a hit false. So that failed to get something from the cache. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a function, an async function test. Test. I'm going to do console.time. Test for I let I equals 0, I is less than 1,000 plus I await. So this is I'm going to test serially, one after another, that same call that we just did up here, b.get yada yada yada, and then console.time end test semicolon splat. Now I should be able to do await test. I'm going to do 1,000 queries back to back, one after another, which obviously is not a great proxy of how this works, but it gives us an idea. So how long do you think this is going to take? It's already taken longer than perhaps you might have thought it would take. So this is obviously failing every time, and it's using the same code that we would use in production. So we're getting all of the same benefits. It's running on of like it being jitted or whatever is magically going on behind the scenes. It is reaching out to S3 directly from within AWS itself. And it takes, this is what I measured earlier, so it's great. And I also measured it in Python for what it's worth. 25 seconds to do 1,000. So it's 25 milliseconds to determine that something is not inside S3. So that's kind of quite fast, actually. I was pleasantly surprised, at how quick that was. 25 milliseconds, of course, is eternity if you're a high-frequency trader. But 25 milliseconds, even if you're writing video games, that's like 2 frames. But when it comes to doing a Compiler Explorer request, then I think, hundreds of milliseconds response times are not unreasonable, especially when, if I hit the refresh button over here and press the right thing, compilation took 300 milliseconds. Network JS waiting, etc., 229 milliseconds. So 25 of that is the fact that we went off to the cache. And well, actually, this one didn't, in fairness, because I hit the refresh button, and the refresh button says bypass the cache. But let's, if we make a new one of these that no one has ever done before. So, oops, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we wait, okay, and then we say, how long did you take? I think it's fair to say, of that 278 milliseconds inside here, about 25 of them is us going to the cache and finding that it's a miss. So it might be worth speeding that up, but obviously, I was hoping it would. Hoping is the wrong word. If it had been 100 or 200 milliseconds, then I would have thought, yes, it's definitely worth going to use something like Redis. But at the moment, I feel like we don't. It's not necessarily the case that we need to. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the pull requests. So this is now green. Everything is happy. So I'm just going to squash and merge that, which is a bit of a rude thing, but half the people who are interested in this are either seen it already or are on the stream watching. So there we go. And then we say port cache code to TypeScript, and now we've got some kind of failure in here. So one of the myriad things, currently code QL, one critical severity security alert. Let's have a look. Hard-coded credentials. God. Dismiss alert. This is used in tests. Look, lib cache. Oh, and it's not used in tests, base.ts. But it's a false positive. We don't care about that. There is like a hard-coded constant we used as a key. It's not really used as a key. It's used as part of the hash that we put into everything, and it's always been there. So that's fine. But it's interesting that we've turned on all of these quality controls, right? And so we have all of these things going on each one of our check-in to try and hope that we do everything as right as we can. So now the cache code here, I am actually going to wait for Mats to have a chance to review, or someone else to review. So I won't actually put this live. And Clang Force Dwarf 4. Ah, Partouf on the stream. That is amazing. So we have a fix here. So Partouf has been working while watching the stream. This looks great. I'm going to have a quick look at it just to see what it is. And we're going to ignore all of these daft things here and just dismiss those annotations. Don't care. So there's a whole bunch of things to do with that, but we'll worry about that later. So Clang, now we're saying we make it use Dwarf 4, which is an older version of the Dwarf debug information, because we then can understand it. At the moment, our system can't understand the new debug format that the latest version of Clang brings out. And so then these things here are just formatting changes. Everything is groovy. I love it too. So Partouf, I'm going to merge this change, if you don't mind. I'm sure you would have told me if not. Squash and merge. Sounds great. Okay. What else have we got going on here? We still have our deterministic to JSON. Now, I spoke earlier with Partouf and said about merging these things in. So my guess here is that these have been approved. Not even sure exactly what they are. But check infra 2. Good call, Ruben. So what I'm what I'm lining myself up for here is to do a site update with a bunch of things so that you can see the process that we go through when we make an update. So I'm just going to squash and merge this because this has been approved. I think. Has this been approved? No, it hasn't been approved. Sorry, am I getting ahead of myself? This one's approved. VT to 100 reverse things. So it's been approved by everyone. All the people approve all the things. And this is now handling some ANSI stuff. And oh my word, thank you for putting a test in for this as well. That's glorious. I also approve. Everyone approve. And you get an approval. And you get an approval. Squash and merge. Beautiful. Okay. Anything else that's obviously approved? Convert GCC dump view to TypeScript. This is approved, but I wondered if we were still going back and forth on this one. Comments. And then they've been approved again. So I'm going to trust my friends here that this is good to do. Don't think we need to do that. Eliminate more uses of underscore.js is a great thing. So we're going to move that into as well. So once again, Compiler Explorer is a village. takes all sorts of other folks, and that's approved, but we need to talk about how to do the deployment for that. Oh, that's a nice artifact. Okay, everything else looks groovy there. Now, Ruben said to check infra, so we have multiple repositories, and we have this is now live. Oh my word, this is draft. Ruben, you said this is draft. Do we want to change this? But I was definitely interested in this. So this is telling people automatically when we push things live that that their changes are now available in the website. So I unless Ruben, you tell me otherwise, I'm going to park that for now. I already merged in a change earlier today for installing a new version of Don't Tell Me, one of the CUDAs, but it doesn't install because we haven't got enough disk space. So if I log out for that machine, we only have 5 gig spare on our machine here, which is, I have no idea where 19 gigabytes of nonsense are coming from. There's about 4 or 5 gig that I can find on the machine, and I've got to go spelunking, and I wasn't going to bore you all with me and my incompetence at system administration to get that installed. So we're going to leave that for now. So the things that we care about have been merged. Let's just make sure there isn't anything else. Updated 2 days ago. Let's check our GCC builder. One pull request. What is this? Stack tray support for GCC 2 days ago. Oh dear. Fixes number 7. Number 7 is build GCC with stack tray support. Yeah, why wouldn't we? This might need a bit more look. If it's trunk. Oh yeah, that is definitely true. Oh yeah. We're on GCC 12 now, and config plus equals. Love it. Oops. That's version grab trunk and build config GCC 12. That's brilliant. So we have a bit of a somewhat sophisticated system for building compilers that will automatically roll out when we build GCC 12, which is coming really soon. So this is really important to get that in. So merge that in, enable stacks approved, and now I should just squash and merge it. GCC trunk is now version 12, enable stack trace support. Yeah, this is perfect. Love it. That will automatically get built, and as part of our daily builds, that will just take effect. So I'm not going to do anything special for that. You can see why this takes so much time, right? Compiler workflows, Clang builder, updated 15 days ago, 12 seconds, updated now. Brilliant. Okay, I think everything else is up to date. If Ruben, I can take a look at that other PR later on. But all of this is to cover for me going back to Compiler Explorer, checking this, ignore the dependabot things, checking the actions and saying, when this merges in, it will be build 2714. So the build is in progress, and one of the things we changed earlier this week was to make the distribution build and the tests run in parallel. So this will be shortly done. So 2714 is our new build number. Move you over there. So back on the administration node on the left-hand side here. Oh, 3582 on main. Okay, we will definitely do that. So Ruben's just told me there's another thing on main that we're going to merge in, so it'll be a little bit more of a delay. But again, because of the changes we've been making all this week, thank you everyone who's helped me take this week off. This is a much quicker process than it has been for a while. So Ruben says 3582. Low hanging fruits from WebStorm code inspection. Why wouldn't we merge this too? Excellent. I am trusting in everybody who works on this. Oh, it's got conflicting files. Do you want to do a quick resolve? I will see if it's obvious. Is that the only thing? Oh. Hey, Oliver. You've come near the end, my friend. All right, what have we got going on in here? Site settings. So in your one, we've got those two. And next, it's not mentioned anywhere. So I think we just want to take yours there. I think. Seeing as it's not mentioned in the rest of it. Okay, we're going to try that, and I apologize if I broke that. Ruben, we'll let that build. Committing merge. We don't have nothing to select. Those are awesome. Okay, let's have a quick look in here. Yeah, lots of changes. Okay, we'll let the CI do its thing. Oh, hello, cat. So if the test and the build work, then I will merge it. So Ruben is, if you think I broke it, then please let me know through DMs or whatever. I really appreciate it. And that's very sweet of you, Oliver. It's Friday, and so soon I will be stopping this, and I'll be torturing my children to do their music practices when they get home from school, lessons, and then it's support a local business takeaway night tonight. So we will be getting something delicious, hopefully. Anyone doing anything exciting this weekend? Yeah, cat is on the keyboard. While we're here, if anyone's good at drawing things, we have got this PR here where we're adding nice, pretty things to the drop down for languages, and we're nearly there, but we need a few things just to make it complete. Although I think some of these will be, yeah. See, that's right. You know, anyone, yeah, for these languages that don't have logos, you could draw us something or help us with this one. That would be a good one to help us with. Okay, so that one finished. That's the 2714, but we are now waiting for the low-hanging fruits, and I just want this to merge and build, or test even, because we only run the test for PRs, and then we can merge it, and then we can do another thing, and then we're close. And then if I could actually read the chat, my cat's backside is currently hiding from me, I would respond to you, because I think someone's spoken something. There we are. Oh, where are you? Serafina, move out the way, please. I can't read it. Plenty of spare MG minutes now. Yes, yeah. So Juvenile actually works with me now. So he has to suffer me all day. Although he's had a whole week off, and yet, even though he had a whole week of me being away, he has joined this stream just to spend more time. Some D&D, awesome, and compiler hacking. That's great. Yeah, it's hacking on compilers is great. Actually, I think I said in the Discord, but by a staggering coincidence, I discovered that David Beasley, who is one of the, I think he's the person who invented Swig. You know, I say invented, you know, originated Swig, the simple something interchange something, the thing that does Python bindings and every language to every other language kind of bindings. I discovered he lives up the road from here, so we went and had coffee this morning. And what I didn't realize he does is he's a teacher, and one of the things he teaches is like a compiler class, and he gets like 6 students at a time. They all sit in a room together and they write a compiler. You know, each individually, like a toy language, all the way from, you know, parsing all the way through to code generation. I just thought that was a really cool thing to teach folks. So hacking on compilers sounds like a lot of fun. It is the Python guy, yes. Yes, exactly. Yay! Okay, so annotations, there should be at least one empty line between import groups. Okay, we still have that to worry about, but I am not worrying about it enough to not merge. There's too many knots. Pull requests. 3582. Low-hanging fruits. Oh, and the dog wants to go outside. Squash and merge. Okay, Compiler Explorer on Windows, and this test push. I'm not sure. Oh, that's a different thing. Yeah, we're fine. All right. Address some low-hanging fruits. Change editor code to silence ESLint. We can definitely fix that. Co-authored by me, apparently. I get a credit there. I'm stealing the glory from you, Ruben. It's my way, you know. Steal the credit. Just glory hunting. Look how few pull requests we've got. It's great. They fit on one page, even in this zoomed in amount. Okay, so we've got to wait for that to build. So I have 494. Oh gosh, errors here. I mean, I guess we could look here and say we've got 1600 closed, but nearly 500 open. Should we find the oldest one? Sort by oldest. This is all covering for us waiting for the build. Oh, that's great. Yeah, he seemed like an excellent person. We had a lovely chat. We talked all about 6502. We talked about functional programming. We talked about monads, all in an hour coffee. It was hilarious. The people around us were completely like, who are these people? Oh, neat. You're up in the UP. That's cool. Well, give me a ping on Discord if you happen to be around. I'm always up for a fortuitous meeting with people. Yeah, no, so I imagine he has some excellent talks. I'll have to look him up now. So the oldest one is from this joker, Matt Godbolt, number 28. Parse debug info to track variables in registers. And this is look into the feasibility of tracking variables in registers via the debug info. That seems quite a stretch, wouldn't you say? So the intention behind this bug, and I remember this one, is to parse out more debug information. At the moment we just do line by line debug. But if we could understand what value is in what register by tracking the debug, then as you mouse over the registers, then we could say, hey, yeah, this is x plus 2, or this is, the memory address, blah. That would be great. Adding assembly output for Java as well. So there's no JIT output. So the Java story is that there are some AOT Java compilers that we have considered. My concern with adding JIT output to Compiler Explorer is that unless you can run a representative amount of code for a representative amount of time, the JIT doesn't really have a fair fight in terms of generating decent code. And if we were to just launch naive JIT Java on the world, my fear is that there is a certain class of native programmer, be it C or C++ or Rust, who doesn't understand that the JIT is very adaptive and extremely clever. And I feel that there would be a lot of like language wars where people would start going, oh, look at the terrible code generation by this particular idiom. And it's like, well, if you gave it an opportunity to run a bit longer, it would perhaps have generated much better code. So maybe I am oversensitive to that, but that's one of the reasons why I don't want to have like grist to the mill of more language sort of bigotry, really. Okay, let's have a look at our actions here. Okay, we're waiting for 2717. So we'll move that over here. And while we're waiting, I'll sort of show you the process. Oh, well, the Mohawk. If you have some great ideas about how to make sure that we represent this fairly, then I'm all ears. Please, the Discord is available from the README inside the Compiler Explorer thing. Come join us there and chat. I'm probably going to take a break this weekend before my family strangle me. But, okay, as the C# people are unhappy either, says Partouf, which makes sense, right? And likewise, we forever have people talking about... I think I can't remember which language. There's another language where we build by default with I think it's Rust, with the debug, with the optimizer turned off, because like unless you pass and optimize, it doesn't generate optimal code, right? That's kind of normal. And that we sort of stuck by that, but they go, but nobody does that. I'm like, well, then they should type in -o, like, or the equivalent. Okay, C builds list. What do we win here? We've got 2714 and we're waiting for 2717 here. Drum roll. So we've got probably another minute and a half of me gibbering away while we wait. So while we're waiting, let's take you over there and then let's go back over to cost management or something interesting. What else have we got over here? Oh, it's nearly finished. We can have a look. How many of these have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. And staging is up. Of course, staging is up. I remembered it's up. We have a builder node, which is a specialized instance that we fire up to do some of our builds, some of our compiler builds, and some of our other bits and pieces. We have this CE runner, which is the node that pops up and does the compiler discovery, which we need to think about how best to improve that. And then actually hidden away from all of this, there is another set of builders. So every night we build compilers from scratch. So not all compilers, just the trunk builds of compilers. So if I go over here to compiler workflows and go to the actions tab here, this is all open. You can go and have a look at all of this stuff. It's open to you. You can see here are all of the things that we like to build every single night, and it's done on GitHub Actions, but GitHub Actions runners that are available to the public are far too slow, so we actually run our own, and those come up on demand. But our 2717 is available, so builds set current 2717. This is in staging, that's okay. It's in main, that's fine. We haven't done compiler discovery. I'm actually going to do... No, I'm not going to do compiler discovery because I want to see if we can get the bug to happen. But if we push this to production, I'll do compiler discovery before that. So, yes. Deploying static files to the delivery network, CDN. Everything's good to go. Lovely. Okay, so it is now the case that if we do instances list, no, status... Oh gosh, has the cat gone out? 1 second. All right, if you remember... Oh, excuse the noise in the background. It's the cat and the dog chasing each other around. My wife just came back in with the dog and nearly let the cat out. You know, the cat that we very carefully tried to prevent from going out. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to restart the instances. But actually, I'm going to tear down our environment and start it back up again. This is going to be a closer way of trying to reproduce the... yeah, if you open the door, if you actually open the whole door, then the IoT cat door doesn't help you at all. So what I'm doing is I'm shutting down the staging environment and I'm bring it back up again. This is the quickest way when we don't care about the fact that the environment was up or down to refresh instances without having to restart them. If I restarted them, then it wouldn't be a kind of fair simile of what happens when the cache is tested. Yeah, I think we have... Do we not have MLIR for Rust? Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Add new Rust MIR output. Yep. Boom. So I don't know enough about this. Compilation failed is not a great look. Do we need a pub found? No. Compilation output. What is the output? Unexpected token. All right, well, that's that. No such file or directory, it says. Cannot emit MIR. Well, looks like it works only for the nightly and the beta. But it does work. Or it only works when you have a main, apparently. Well, I don't understand what I'm looking at here, so hopefully you folks who work on it know better than that. So, all right, we're going to start the environment again. The excitement is unceasing, I know. So this is going to be a staging environment. So again, those who are here right at the beginning of the stream, our staging instance is godbot.org/staging. But if you go there, then there's a chance that your IP address will be shown on the screen because I'm going to be looking at the other end of that. So please don't visit it unless you mind your IP address or parts of your IP address showing up. Considered switching to a C6i.large. Not yet. No, I can't keep up with that. Let's have a look at those instance types while we're waiting for... We'll wait. So we're still waiting for the thing to come up. and c6i.large, you're saying, well, it takes ages for this to load up. c6i.large. What do I win with that versus a c5.large? A bit more. So it looks like it's a shoe-in. We should be able to put that in. That's yeah. I mean, I don't mind at all. What is the difference between? What does the I thing mean? One thing we get is decent spot pricing. So that's one thing that that is currently pretty cool. So while we're waiting, we'll have a quick look at that afterwards. I just trying to keep up with all these things that are going on. So what is a C5i? What is the actual CPU on it? Do we get a different CPU type, or is it a different thing going on? It's an x86-64. It's not like the AMD ones, which are the A. I see. So they're just now distinguishing each one with an I or an A to tell us whether it's Intel or whatever. So it looks like it's a complete, like, it's just better. Okay. Is this going now? Unhealthy. Still goes unhealthy first before it goes healthy. That's interesting. We'll have to give that a go. It's a really easy thing to change on our side. Yeah. So the only question would be, if by moving to it, are there fewer of them around, and therefore are we likely to end up in a spot with? Oh, would you believe it? Are we getting cache misses? 17, 17, 13. No, that's so cool. It's healthy. Okay, we're up. We're upping. We've got cache hits here. Everything seemed to work. Availability and spot pricing. Yeah, so I can easily add it in to the mix, and the automatic thing will pick up both of them. So we can give that a go in a second, because why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we change like the fundamentals of the site while we're going on a live stream? That seems completely reasonable, right? So compiler explorer, what are we doing here? We are now going to go to, yes, the staging instance. Staging. Oh, it looks like we got took down. Oh, that's no good. What happened there? So it looks like the machine got whacked. Oh, my wife's just taking the cat now to the vet, so I'm actually so it looks like it got stopped. So that does not fill me with confidence, you know. That means that it could be very unfortunate timing that it was just too slow to start up. Even though it thinks it started up in 20 seconds, it did take a lot longer than that, because the machine takes a while to start up. So we'll see what happens with this next one, but I'm definitely got a +1 to weird things are happening. And unfortunately, once the machine gets recycled, then we lose any other logs that may have come out of it. This is the only log I've got here for this kind of stuff. Although I can actually go to the IP address and see. All right, mounting is a whole other thing. That's definitely a whole other live stream, or in fact a whole other company. So if anybody wants to start a company where we have very fast network access to read-only disks that are shared amongst many machines, then let me know. Or if anyone has any ideas about how to do that. Okay, this is us shutting down. Ordering cycles. Oh, so much junk. So systemd is most of our startup time when we start up, because we're mounting 1500 images onto the machine, which is a whole other talk. And like, yeah, there's just too much going on here. Yeah, I don't like that at all. Okay, I'm done with that, but I have to be very careful about this. In fact, I'm going to move this onto the other monitor because I don't want to show live, accidentally show unfiltered stuff. So I go back to all systems, and then program Amazon.staging latest. Okay, go back here. That's interesting. Okay, so it's up and it's healthy. So if that can be believed, then we're now in a situation where the site is running. And this is the staging site. You can see it's got staging up here. And again, if you hit this site now, you will appear in this weblog over here. Although, yeah, there we are. there's my actual like live tailing the log file. So as I type in here, you'll see my own IP address, hooray, and it'll slowly fill in as we go. Right, lovely. No, another one. There we go. Yeah, there it is. So this is working for some definition of working. The caching clearly worked here in our up here because we got hits for our startup cache. I don't know if we're getting hits in this version here if I were to do this, because let me refresh the page, which loses the cache, and my web browser, because there's caching in my web browser as well. And then this thing down here tells me compilation info that it was a cache hit. Yes, so that was a cache hit on the server, which means that the caching is working there too. And that's lovely. Everything is groovy. So this seems to be a win. If anyone has any thoughts about what kind of that is any of the folks who what's the word on the stream telling me to merge in their changes, if there are things that we can check here, I would do. Otherwise, you know, this is about what I normally do. It's like, does it work for the obvious cases? And I can see other IP addresses are hitting it there. So I hope that you're doing it knowingly. So yeah, everything else seems to work. The policies are working, which was yesterday's fun. And by fun, I mean interminable pain. The changelog's still working. Good. I'm happy with this. I hope that other folks are on this are happy. So, speak now or forever hold your peace. What we might do is and so we've still got like a minor issue with the fact that the machine got torn down. In fact, I tell you what I can do. I can look inside where is it? EC2 management console. Let's go and look at the load balancer and see why it took the staging instance down that we were looking at. So activity, and at 1936:29, got it. So it did think that it was a health check failure, which is an unfortunate thing. But what can you do? We're still working on getting the startup time to be a lot quicker, and it's just not. And sometimes it doesn't start up in time. Okay, you can go away. You can go back over there. And so we're going to do C. Actually, no, before we do this, I'm going to do compiler discovery because I don't trust it enough to put it into production just yet. So let's go back to our infra. And we're going to go to actions, and we're going to do compiler discovery, and we're going to do GH2704 run workflow. I'm going to run it in staging because it didn't work yesterday when I did it in production, and life's too short to work it out. But you can see, so this compiler discovery process effectively just runs Compiler Explorer and then stops it once we get to like running, and then we just save off a JSON document that has all of the compiler information in it. And you can see most of the time it takes, you know, a couple of minutes or a few seconds or whatever, but every now and then it'll take 20 minutes. So this equivalent here was it having that strange thing where it just decided to miss the cache. And in this instance, at least at one stage, it was reading from a local disk. So I don't know what the heck happened there. You know, do compiler discovery, 20 minutes of nonsense. But again, there's too many things going on at once. I'm not going to try and do that as well. Issues, no, actions. So let's see, compiler discovery 1 minute ago. Do compiler discovery, and hopefully this is just going to work super fast. Once that's done, I'll do a promotion from staging to production, and then we'll be in a good spot. But because I now got the time back, I can keep going a bit longer. Because why wouldn't I? So I'm going to come back over to my IDE while we're waiting for that, and I'm going to bring up our infrastructure repository here, and we're going to go to my launch configuration. And you can see here is all of the nonsense, and here's the instance type c5.large. So staging is c5.large and whatever. Now there are ways of overriding it and giving it a whole bunch of different choices as I record. I'm sure I've done it somewhere else. Oh, that's off going now. So it would be really straightforward for me to just, while we're waiting, turn staging into the C6i.large. And there are ways of making it have tiers of these things. I know, and I'm just trying to think where I've done it before. Oh, I've done it in our CI setup. So if I open recent CECI, oh no, that's in Visual Studio Code. So I have to load up Visual Studio Code. Hope that nothing too secret is on the screen. There are a few things I've checked in that are secret, so I'm just going to move that out the way. But in here, providers, no, main, no. Where the heck is this thing? Oh, there we are. Instance types. Yeah. And so for our CI build, I've got C5 8x large and C5a 8x large. So these are the things that we run our compile builds on. So I wonder if there's the equivalent of C6 8x large, which I'm sure there is. We could also add into the mix, and it just picks the cheapest ones that are available. So I'm cool with that. But then I'd have to work out how to do instance type plural inside these blocks. Okay, compiler discovery is done. That's enough for at the moment. So CI safe for prod 2704. CI env prod set current builds set current G 2704. Production is now going to run 2704 main. All the are you sure's. Off it goes. CE env prod instances refresh. So this is now going to actually do the site update. What this refresh is going to do is going to slowly recycle each machine and replace it with a fresh new instance and fresh new VM that starts up to run and put it into the load balancer, and then it pulls the old ones out slowly. So it's a bit of a gradual process. In fact, it's going to take quite a long time, especially if I press enter in the wrong terminal. No such thing. Of course not, because it's environment refresh, you Burke. And it is in prod. Off we go. So now the refresh is going to start. It's going to start rolling it out, which is cool. Why don't we just see what a C6i large looks like, eh? So while that's going, I'm going to go to a new terminal on the remote machine here. And I'm going to do C environment. So by default, this will be our staging environment. So I'm going to stop our staging environment, provided nobody has told me that there's a problem with it. Nope, good, right. So stop the staging environment. And then I'm going to bring up a CD Terraform. And I've already got another change here. Terraform apply. So this is actually going to change all of the stuff behind the scenes to use a C6i because we can. And then I'm going to have to learn all this nonsense around how to do instances, instance types. There's definitely market options. That's it, isn't it? We're going to look at that because then I can actually list a whole bunch of things in there. Okay, so what are we going to change here? It's saying I'm going to get rid of, look, it's going to remove that compiler explorer logs thing. Do not modify. Yeah, whatever, because we did that before. And staging will be changed in place. And then I have got another change up here somewhere. That's fine. Yes, yes. Do change those back, please. Excellent. And now if I restart staging, we should get a C6i. And then we can look at the pricing and see whether we actually got one or whatever. So Brain says go to this window here. Go to the EC2 management console. Let's go to our instances. You can go away for a second, and then somewhere in here, staging is terminated. Should be a new staging one terminated. Where's the new staging? Staging. Running C6i.large. Look, there it is. How wonderful. So to save me from waiting, I'm going to get the private IPv4 address. I'm going to SSH to Ubuntu at that. Unfortunately, when we start it up, it's absolutely destroyed by those mounts, and systemd is just logging all the things over and over and over and over again. Yes, that's fine. So even getting to SSH is a pain and a problem. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Come on. This is part of our startup problem. Quick. And so I run top now. You can see, oh no, it's actually finished doing all of the mounting, and now it's doing the actual release stuff. Okay, what do we get? What do we win? Not LSPC. What do I mean? I mean, ooh, 2.9 gigahertz. All right. It's got all these things, bugs, Spectre. Of course we've got Spectre. All right, well that's cool. The question is, how much are we paying for this machine? It's on, I mean, we've got a maximum price in the configuration file of 5 cents an hour, but we usually pay 3.5 cents is what I've put here. So let's go back to spot requests. Let's go to spot requests. Wait 100 years for this to come out. C5 large is everywhere, but no mention of C6i.large, which is worrying to me. Why no spot request? I am confused. Is it only in the auto scaling group that I do that? I thought... Alright, where's this spot price come into it? Spot price. It's not mentioned anywhere. Disturbing. I think I've broken something here. But obviously something was getting spot prices. Who all is getting the spot price? Spot price. Spot max price. Auto scaling group. So it's the auto scaling group itself that has the spot price. Mixed instances policy. There we go. That's where some of this stuff is. Prod mixed. So, okay. Today I learned that we don't actually use spot pricing for our staging and beta environments. That's rather stupid. Thank you, Mohawk. That's great. So I've got some more determination to do here. There's obviously some things we can try out, but yeah, I'm not sure about this. Average cost per vCPU hour, whatever. Yeah, okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I need to rationalize this whole setup, because clearly the launch configuration stuff is not what I thought it was, and I'll have to look into that. It's a bit of a miry. It does. I mean, it does, but you know, like running them long term, we would probably want it to look the same as production, even if there aren't any around. Yeah. But having a spot of 1, you know, you can still have a spot request for 1, I think. Can I do spot request? Spot? Capacity reservation specification? Spot? No, that's different. All right, I'm not going to play around with that now. This is silly, but hey, it would work. Well, I say that. Let's do instances. Well, let's just hit staging. What the heck? Let's hit staging. Doesn't it look much faster? It's much more crisp. Dunk. And, you know, what do we get? 246 milliseconds, 191 milliseconds of compilation. Brilliant. And, you know, it started up in 15 seconds. Who knows? Who knows or dares to dream what on earth is going on here? I think we are... Yeah, as long as you can guarantee placements, but well, we kind of have to guarantee it, because like at the moment in production, we kind of guarantee it. Our site would go down if it wasn't for it. I think that's what we've got set, but I'll have to look. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to log. I'm going to do environment stop staging. Oh, people are playing around in staging. I should let them continue. If that's you, Partouf, I'm sorry. I'll talk to you in the other channel. We are still doing site updates in this window. So the main live site is in the process of updating right now. And I will probably continue to take a look at the C6i. So thank you for that notification. Okay, thank you, Partouf. I will stop staging. And seeing as my dog is starting to bark at next door's dog, this is probably a great time for me to stop. So once again, I want to thank everybody for being on the stream. I am going to get the camera thing up so that I can actually look at you. Hello. Thank you all for being here and keeping me sane while I've been tinkering away with this. We've made some great progress. I've learned TypeScript today, which I never thought I would do. So this has already been my favorite day of the 5 days that I've been doing this. And I'd love to try and find more time to do this. I want to say a big thank you to the administrator team. So that's Partouf and Austin and Ruben. And all of the other implementers who send their PR, so Mats and Jeremy and co, who send a whole bunch of PRs and do a lot of work and reviewing and filtering the bugs and generally just kind of keeping everything going, right? Most of the site's work is not by me, it's by those great individuals who are doing all the hard work, and I'm just sort of trying to vaguely manage it and keep the wheels on. So huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to my patrons that make it actually possible to cover the costs. You saw some of the costs that are in here, so thank you to those who help support the site through Patreon. You know, we do have sponsors, so thanks to them. Don't want to make too much of a thing of those, but you know, you see them on every web page every time you open up the website. And this has been great fun. I hope to do this again sometime soon, but I have no idea when I'll have the opportunity to do it. But thank you for being with us. If you want to be notified if I'm doing this again, I would recommend you subscribe and hit the little, you know, bell thing, you know, all the things that they say on YouTube, all those things, so that you get notified when I'm going live if this is interesting to you. But thank you for coming along for the ride, and I will see you another time. And now we get the awkward ending bit where I have to find the button to stop the stream. There it is. All right, bye.